Right, you're not thinking clearly. All right, you've got to agree to this surgery. Because right now, you're as useless as Black Widow is to the Avengers.
So, what's your superpower?
Kicking.
Oh, right, because none of us can kick. Hey, which one of you guys can kick? Hulk, stop being nice.
Sorry.
No, we were watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine yesterday.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Get it? Because it's a number.
So anyway, we were watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine yesterday, and it was the Thanksgiving episode in the season 1 where, what's his name? It's Scully and Hitchcock. Hitchcock is on Amy's couch. She's like, Hitchcock, why aren't you wearing a shirt? He's like, I can't spill food on my shirt if I'm not wearing one.
Hey.
I was like,
oh, Hitchcock.
Hitchcock and Scully only get better as the seasons go on.
That is so true.
It's so funny.
Jake, are you going to file that donut away? Scully, just asked for the donut. Jake, can I have the donut?
Oh,
good
that
times.
show is
Shout out
just
to
so
Brooklyn
funny.
Nine-Nine. If you have it, if you're
That's
an Andy
great.
Samberg fan,
Oof.
what are you doing?
So good.
It's fantastic.
It's great.
Well,
I'm Chuck.
welcome. Phil, would you
What?
like to welcome us?
Are we
into-
starting now?
Yes, we've been recording.
Are we recording?
Yeah,
Okay.
for the third time, yes.
Welcome back to the Pop Culture Punks podcast, where we bring pop culture back to the pit.
I'm glad
Too
you.
soon.
We're not. I'm not going to say it.
My glasses are fogging up.
Do we need
How
someone to
does that
take?
happen?
Do we need someone to take over for you today?
No, he's good.
Are you a little too goofy?
I'm a little too goofy. Wait, are we doing the thing at the top there?
Huh? What's at the top?
In bold?
Oh crap! I forgot about that.
Are we doing that before or
Oh,
after?
that'd be kind of funny.
We'll do it after this.
All
This
right.
week we'll be discussing some movies that we've been seeing and possibly some trailers
Specifically,
that have come out.
2 movies.
Specifically 2 movies that we've seen. There will probably be spoilers.
No. There are spoilers.
There probably
will be
has-
spoilers.
There'll be
We will
spoilers.
let you know in the description before you
Yes,
get too far.
right.
We're gonna do our
where
intro.
you can start.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna do our intro stuff, and then
We
You should be safe for a little while.
Yeah.
Should be safe.
We will briefly discuss spoiler-free content in general, reflections on the movies before
And then
moving
we
into
will
spoiler
say-
territory.
freaking people. There's about to be spoilers, and then there will be spoilers.
But
No,
if you're really
well,
finicky about anything, talking about anything,
Don't listen to
we
this
might
episode.
accidentally say something that you don't want to hear before seeing the movie.
yeah,
Yeah.
so viewer
'Cause I'm not
discretion advised
cognizant
already.
even like what is and isn't a spoiler sometimes.
Yeah, when
there's
the-
like 50,000 movies now, so it's like
Right.
which one, what happened in which movies? And who knows?
What- so you were like, okay, so in Avengers, did Inspector Gadget win against Dr. Claw? Or did Dr. Claw get the Infinity Gauntlet?
Like, did Squidward successfully kick Iron Man out of his neighborhood, or was that like?
okay,
was
so
funny.
like,
Shout out Squidward.
did the guy get out of prison in Shawshank Redemption, or did he like call on Spider-Man to get him out? Like
Spider-Man
Spider-Man. No,
Spider-Man.
nope. We
Spider-Man.
gotta stop.
with great
It's-
power.
I think every time I see Glows, like she grimaces every time she hears that
She's
voice.
not here, so it's fine.
No, I don't. I don't want our main joke
she
to
can
just
tell.
be.
She can tell.
I don't want to just be known for Peter. Peter. That's so like everyone does. Everyone does Peter. Like everyone does
meaning
Peter.
us three, or
So then we're gonna do the pit thing, but you don't like the pit thing either. What
No,
do you
I-
want?
It's-
what do you want
I'll
from
be,
us?
I'll
What
be
do you
the
want?
I'll be the anti-stab. Like you guys, I tell you all the time. You guys see yourselves as like we're the punks to society. I'm not a punk, but that's my punk. I'm punk against your punk.
you're a punk against
Is that
punks,
punking
so
with
then
ya?
you're just mainstream.
You're mainstream.
If you're against punks, you're mainstream.
You're a normie.
You're a normie.
Normie.
Yeah.
Don't call me an army.
How dare you?
You're like the counterculture to the counterculture,
Yeah.
Right.
which is
So
just
I am
normal
like
culture.
basically your idol.
You're our idol.
I embody the essence of pure counterculture.
Wow.
Sure.
You are counterculture incarnate.
I am so countercultural.
I'm so countercultural,
I'm so
bro.
So
Countercultural.
countercultural.
That's gonna be the thing after woke. I'm so countercultural.
That's all. Counterculture's been a thing.
I know, but the phrasing. It's
That's
not, like
counterculture's-
right now.
yeah.
It's like, oh, dude, I'm woke. Now it's gonna be like, oh, I'm countercultural. Dude, I'm topsy turvy.
All right, are you ready to have your mind blown?
Maybe.
Does Pikachu have brown on the end of his tail?
No, he's got black.
Does he?
What's the purpose of this question?
No. Only
You're
that
not- you're not
that one
supposed to figure it
Pikachu
out.
does, doesn't he?
Because it's like, no, it's one of those questions that you present and it's like, does he? I don't know, maybe.
We could just look up a picture.
What's the purpose?
I don't know. It's just like one of those questions. It's
just
just
one of those
It's one of those things.
This is him being countercultural.
I'm countercultural. I'm asking the tough questions.
Countercultural.
Hey, stop it.
That's gonna be the new
I
thing.
don't like when you
That's
guys
so
make
countercultural.
He's so salty. Look at him.
Are we doing the thing on the top there now?
Those tears are not for you.
Whose voice was that?
Those tears are not for you.
Those tears are not for
That
you.
was
Mon
Thanos.
Dieu. Oui.
Yeah, dude, Herman the German was in Avengers. I didn't.
I drive you. It's like Spider-Man gets into my car. We're going to save the world.
He is going to save the world.
Oh, hey, great! Thanks for letting me get in your car. Yeah. Okay, here we go.
We're going to drive
I could
now.
fly to space in my car. My car has super jet. He's like, that would be great to make like a fan fiction of like Herman the German just like self-inserting into the Avengers lore.
It's like, there is this bad man named Thanos. We must go fight him right now.
The Red Skull is my brother, not just because we're German. It's because I know him from the distant future.
He is my future self. Come back from the past.
But I am
It's
the
very confusing.
But
is
I
this
am the
timeline.
good. Yeah. But I am the good Red
is
Skull.
But I am
This is
the
a
good
fan
Red Skull.
fiction. It's Herman the German as the
Welcome to
Avenger.
the fan fiction podcast. We're here today
Ew.
to write another. We should add on to the Smash Bros fan fiction.
Yeah.
Dude,
With
that would be
Herman-
so, Red
Herman
Skull.
the-
Herman the German
As
and
played by Red Skull.
or Skeletor.
fight each other.
Hey,
Red
man.
Skull plays Herman the German.
Every time I see Red Skull, just Skeletor. Any character with just a skull for a
No,
face.
I think he does look like Skeletor, but I think
That's disgusting.
I have a sinus problem. I can't help it.
Apologize before you.
I'm being
Yeah.
oppressed right now.
acknowledge the people.
I was born this way.
Repent.
Father, forgive me. That's how you repent.
You know I have to go through and cut all that out, right?
Absolutely.
Frick.
Phil's just making
I
gross
thought
noises.
that'd get you, but it didn't work.
Now I'm not going to make the noise, and you guys are going to be telling me to repent for nothing.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Yeah.
No,
I
because
mean,
it
I didn't
still
make
picks
the
up.
rules.
It picks up on our mics because I've gone through and I've been like, all right, there's Phil snort again, and then I'll still hear it, but it's like, I'm like, oh, you're kidding me.
That's gross.
Yeah. I'm like, oh,
All right.
jeez.
So yeah, what are we
So,
talking
yeah.
about today, Phil?
I already said movies. I'm talking
Cool.
about movies.
That's okay. You didn't want to get more specific than that. Okay.
No, no
Stickers.
specifics.
That's
Are we doing the thing
Stickers.
at the top, or are we skipping that?
Let's do the thing at the top.
Okay.
I totally didn't make a list. We'll just come up with.
Oh, I
stuff
gotcha.
on top of it.
Somebody
Gotcha.
come up with a list.
Why don't you explain the rules while?
All right, so here are the rules. So people may have seen these videos on YouTube called "Man Does 100 Impressions in a Minute." We're gonna do our own version called "Phil Does 500 Cartoon Impressions Very Poorly," and so we're going to
doing
spit fire.
500.
In a
Yeah,
minute?
we're not gonna actually do 500.
All right.
We're just gonna throw them at you until we stop
My
laughing.
hands are sweaty. I'm
So,
getting nervous.
I know we challenged this with Phil because in a previous episode we tried to teach Phil how to do
Patrick Warburton.
Patrick Warburton voice, but he is very bad. So we were like, hey, what would be even funnier than to just have Phil do every single cartoon voice? So we decided
So
to
we're
have
gonna
this
give
fun
it a
challenge
shot.
for
See
him.
what happens.
See what I can
Alright.
do. See what kind of magic I can
pull
work.
up. Let me.
What kind of magic is going?
I need Doctor
My
Strange.
my theory is that you're just gonna resort to like I'm gonna say one character and you'll be like Peter, and then I'm like okay next one Peter. It's gonna be terrible.
All right.
All right,
we
Phil.
ready?
Are you guys like boom, boom, boom,
We're just
boom?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
You want to start?
I'll start. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Mickey Mouse.
Hey guys, it's me, Mickey Mouse.
Johnny Bravo.
Oh, hey, it's Johnny Bravo.
Bugs Bunny.
What's up, Doc?
Samurai Jack.
I can't do that one.
You got-
That was gonna sound racist.
I knew. I'm like, oh hello. William Savage. He doesn't have like an Asian accent though. It's
I couldn't remember it though, so I was just gonna do like a stereotypical. Yeah. Next,
Stuart what? Donald Duck.
I'm Donald Duck. Next,
Ben 10.
I'm Ben 10. I'm a kid. I transformed to aliens.
Okay, Peter Griffin.
Hey guys, I'm Peter Griffin.
Fred Flintstone.
Yabba dabba doo.
Elmer Fudd.
What's up, Doc?
No, he says you squooey wabbit.
You squooey wabbit.
No, not like that. Like,
Next.
Oh, crap. The mayor from the Powerpuff Girls.
I am the mayor of this city.
okay, Patrick Star.
Hey, SpongeBob, I'm Patrick Star.
He sounds like your weed, like a weed friend. Hey, SpongeBob.
Next.
Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life.
I'm Rocco, and I'm from the 90s.
Bobby Hill.
Now listen here, Bobby.
It's the wrong character.
Now listen here, Bobby.
We're not gonna. Okay.
Dexter from Dexter's Lab.
Medulla oblongata.
That wasn't even. That. Come on. Okay. Eeyore.
Oh, I'm a sad donkey.
Scooby-Doo.
Shaggy from Scooby Doo.
Oh, Scoob, you got any weed in that pocket there?
That pocket there. I got the reefer. All right, Marvin the Martian.
I'm a Martian.
Mr. Poopy Butthole.
Ooh, Eric.
Bart Simpson.
Hey, I'm Bart Simpson.
Why do you resort to these chain smoker voices?
The Shredder.
What up, Skeeter?
All right, Michelangelo from the Ninja Turtles.
Cowabunga dudes!
The one you got right.
I'm trying to think of any other.
Time to kill Skeeter, bros.
Jimmy Neutron.
Who's that again?
Jimmy Neutron.
Come on.
Hey, kids, let's go build some cool things with our robot dog.
What's his robot dog's name? I dare you.
Cookie.
No.
I thought it was Cookie
It's
Chip.
Goddard.
Cookie Goddard.
Where did you get?
Dude Garfield.
Yeah, do Garfield.
I hate Mondays.
Okay, do
Two more.
Timmy Turner. Do Timmy Turner.
Hey, Cosmo and Wanda, you want to grab my wish?
Stop doing that. You turn him on to Hicks.
Now listen here, Bobby.
All right, the final.
One more.
Beavis from Beavis and Butthead.
Hey, guys, want to go eat some snacks?
That was
I like movie stars.
Oh yeah! Wow, that was
fire.
oh my gosh.
that was a
That
ride.
was so worth it.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week.
Dude, Bobby Hill. Dang it, Bobby.
Dang it, Bobby.
Why
That was the exact moment I realized I wasn't doing the right impression.
Is you're like,
Dang it, Bobby. I'm like, wait,
Oh.
That's the other guy.
Oh my goodness.
That was. We're definitely gonna do that.
we'll do a round
We're
two
doing that
at some
again,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was.
Oh. Sorry for that brief
unprecedented.
interruption. We just wanted to have a good laugh, and
Hopefully everybody else laughed.
we wanted to test Phil's impression skills.
I promised I was trying as hard as I could.
Oh gosh.
Couple reminders before we get into it. If you want a free sticker,
We're all dying over here.
yeah, shoot us a podcast idea, a question for one of us, a favorite podcast moment, or you can recommend something to us, like some music, some TV, movie, whatever floats your boat pop culture wise, and we'll give you some stickers. Shoot that to popculturepunks@gmail.com. Also, leave a review for us wherever you listen. and let us know what you think of the podcast so far.
Like we always say, give us the worst review possible.
Yep.
And we'll,
if you hate us, if you think our impressions are annoying, we don't care, but that's fine.
we'll badmouth you on the show. We'll
we'll talk
We'll
smack
do an
about
impression of you.
Some guy named Jimmy H is like, "Good, I'm Jimmy."
Jimmy H.
I gave him 1 star.
Yeah, Jimmy H over here is all like, these guys don't talk about pop culture. And then, oh, guess what, Jimmy?
Make him
Hey, Bobby.
Get in the pit, Jimmy.
Get in the
taking
pit,
Jimmy to the
Jimmy.
pit.
Taking you to the pit, son.
Well, hi there, Jimbo.
Also, be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. So, if you can, I don't know what other apps have subscription services.
Are we on
so.
Spotify?
No, Spotify's really picky with
Okay.
everything. Yeah,
I imagine.
I think I sent it to them and we got denied. They were like, "Oh, we're not gonna pick.
We're
you."
not accepting contributions right now.
Basically, it was
Yeah.
like,
No, it's. I mean, like, as much as it sucks, it's like Spotify does have like a very not limited, but like all the podcasts that I've like heard before are super professional. So I think
They're
it's
big, like bigger.
yeah, because
I
I don't
think
even
that's the
think
thing.
like H3H3 is on there.
No,
or
it's
anything
like
that.
Rooster Teeth. I think there's a couple other big brands who have highly notable shows.
Yeah,
for a long
there is a
time.
podcast on there that I recommend you all check out called Cults. It's part of
Is
the
it about
podcast
cults?
network. It is about cults. Very good, Phil. As Phil explained, it's about cults. It's super. There's some episodes that vary because like, I think every cult they talk about is interesting, but some of them have varying degrees of like how much they affected their. Because like some of them, it was like they have an interesting history, but then like they didn't really do much as a group. They were just like controversial. But there are some like I still think my 2 favorite episodes are about Charles Manson. That's like their first 2 episodes are dedicated to him. It's super, super interesting. Really thrilling ride. And then there's a cult in Japan that existed in the 80s, 90s called
We studied it in
yeah.
our class Shinrikyo.
Om Shinrikyo.
Do you remember
Really?
that? They were the nerve gas peeps who like
Scary stuff.
who
I
like
don't remember that.
detated like a nerve gas bomb in a subway.
And multiple train
Oh,
lines.
I vaguely remember that.
Because there was like that one manga that the founder of their
The founder of the cult was like trying to indoctrinate new members.
you remember
Oh,
that?
that
So he,
creepy
like,
manga that was like weird. Oh, I remember that now.
I want to find it. I'm curious because
Do
I
you
heard about that
remember
on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, do you remember
It was
the,
basically like Scientology, but like they
the,
wrote
like,
manga,
anime.
Like, yeah.
There's because I remember we had to watch the show they made.
yeah.
And
Oh, they made a show
They
too?
literally made their
Dang.
own anime
Yeah, it was
of it,
creepy.
and it was really creepy, like a cult and like a legit not using the concept of cults to tell a story. It was like legit
cult.
This
anime.
is a cult propaganda anime.
Yeah.
It was it's freaky. I can't remember what it was called. It was like I
Yeah.
want to say it was like
Well,
something
you could-
Defense Warriors or
Yeah, it
something.
was
You could probably
weird.
look up just like Om Shinrikyo and it'll have that.
Oh, it'll-
stuff,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
gonna Google
It
it.
reminded me
You keep
very much
going
of like
and I'll-
Scientology because
Yeah.
Scientology basically started because they had like books behind it. So
yeah.
it's interesting.
Yeah, the dude went a little, and it's an interesting story. I like how they break down the bigger cults because, like, with Om Shinrikyo, what they did was that the first episode they talk about the leader himself and like his past and how he became, the insane person he was and the cult leader he was, and then the next episode they talk about like the cult's influence and like like whatever big disaster they caused, and then like the end results.
Mhm.
So it's really nice
Interesting.
setup.
I
So
should check that out because
Yeah.
I'm interested in like culty religious stuff. So
yeah, it's super interesting. So cults.
cults.
This is not we are not funded by them. Just check them out. It's a cool podcast.
We are funded by a cult.
Yeah, we're, oh yeah, just a quick note. Please join the Avengers of Brotherhood. That is our fun, just a nice group. We talk
Nice
about,
group of guys. We just come together, talk about sacrifice.
talk about
and,
fun stuff. All praise to Thanos.
Yeah, I was like praise Thanos.
I
I think it's literally just called like I think if you Google
was it like
Shinrikyo.
OHM or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just Google the cult and maybe type anime or manga
Yeah.
in there. It'll show up. But anyway,
In that vein, is there
Yeah.
anything else this past week that you've been checking out,
I'm checking out.
pop culture wise?
Yeah, a couple things. So, music-wise, I have really, really started to get into Kendrick Lamar. I've been a Kendrick Lamar fan, but like, I think for some reason I was listening through his album Damn, which won a Pulitzer Prize last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So pretty big step for the rap game, which is cool.
The rap game, dog.
The rap game. You
That
part of the
album is
game?
fascinating.
Coming in.
It was a good album.
You can play it backwards and forwards too.
So I
That seems
started going back and checking out his older stuff because I know when I first listened to Pimp a Butterfly, I wasn't a huge fan because like at the time I wasn't really into experimental stuff, and that
Yeah.
album's very, very different.
I think all of his music is like it almost needs to be listened to like sequentially,
Yeah.
and like in a narrative sense, like listening to it as a story almost.
Yeah. Well, and you can listen to some songs
Well,
outside
yeah.
of, because there's like, so that's how I feel with To Pimp a Butterfly, because it's like there are certain songs on there that I just like adore and think are brilliant, but then there are some songs where I'm like, that's like it's okay, like it fits in with the album, but it's not
It's like
one I'll
there's
constantly
those
listen to.
transition tracks kind of where there's like women talking or something.
Oh, that one always gets me upset because like the intro is so like it has this nice saxophone like, and then it's just like and then it's like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
this is not him going to be rapping, which kind of stinks. There is one interlude track called For Free.
Yeah.
No,
I think it's for free.
I need to check. As I'm talking or as I'm checking, I personally would say after just like a brief listen through all of his albums, Good Kid, Mad City is probably my favorite.
I think that one has like pretty solid like rapping on it.
Yeah, it has solid rapping. All the beats are very like not universal, I would say, but just very catchy and like it's the low key stuff that I love. And Don't Kill My Vibe's a very good song with Jay-Z in that. That's a very good one.
Yeah, Jay-Z's verse on that is pretty sick. Up in the
Yeah,
clouds.
For Sale. That's what it is. For Sale is
For sale.
For Free is the one where it's like the women start
Oh,
arguing,
yeah.
but for Sale is the one where it's got a really, really catchy hook, and Kendrick Lamar raps in that one. Kind of does like a spoken word. But Lupe Fiasco, I've said, has always been my favorite rapper, but I think just because he hasn't come out with stuff recently, I've dabbled more and almost am leaning more toward Kendrick Lamar just because he's so, it sounds mean to say like, oh, he's more relevant, therefore I like him more, but it's just I've realized that across his tracks he's so experimental, and so like even from his first album, which was I forgot the name, but it's got like all this stuff on it, but it has a song called ADHD, which is really, really good. Yeah, I got into his music. I'm a huge fan now, I would say.
Nice.
He's climbed up to probably one of my favorite artists. So yeah, made
Dang.
the jump. What else? I'm back into Borderlands 2, back in the saddle.
I need to beat that still. I've never gotten through it all the way.
I've tried to start that game like 3 or 4 times, and
it's so long, so it's like you just have to plow through it. And
Yeah. Once you get past the preliminary stuff, it's so much fun. Once you get like access to like all the areas. So like I only realized until like after I beat one of the story missions that like, oh, I can go to the DLC maps now, and those are so much fun. The DLC worlds are super dope, and you get those with the Handsome Jack collection. So Borderlands 2 and a little more I was intending to finish it this weekend, but I have just been insanely busy Friday and Saturday, so I didn't have time. But
Finish
still going to
what?
say Violet Evergarden
Okay.
on Netflix. I already talked about it on a previous episode. I don't know which one.
I think it was last week.
It was either last week or 2 weeks ago.
I think you've mentioned it a couple times. So
Probably a
it's-
couple
it's
times.
Consistent with,
It's consistent, but
yeah.
I recently there was 2 episodes I watched where like I have told Josh before, like I pretty much every episode I get teared up or feel some emotion, but like the 9th and 10th episode, I won't say what happens, but I was like I had tears coming down my face, and I had to like get tissue, and I was like, oh, it was like right before I was about to meet with friends too, so I was like, okay, don't show them you're vulnerable. Just you look okay. Just put up your card. Just put up your card. Yeah, put up your card. It's okay. It's okay. No, it is like it. Even watching. I was like watching the end sequence one more time just to show this like one line they showed in Japanese, because that's how they like end episodes, is like you know, one of the really like an emotional phrase that captures the episode, they like put it in Japanese at the end. And I was like reading it, even after reading that I was getting like, oh, not again. Like, I had to turn everything off, but it's so good. And I've gone into why the emotions play so well into that. It's through the medium of writing letters and transcribing thoughts and emotions from people, from a character who doesn't understand emotions. So very good show. I recommend that to virtually anyone, because it's a very, very good show, and it probably doesn't fall into really any stereotype of anime other than like being in Japanese and having, you know, Japanese animation. So
Cool.
Any other big things? I mean, we're going to talk about the big things that we experienced this
yeah.
weekend, but that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Sweet.
What about you?
Finally finished Far Cry 5. I was
Finally.
really I was
As in,
really
like, you've been
close.
playing it nonstop for...
Yeah, I mean, that was basically the one thing I was playing.
Yeah, every time I went online, you were playing Far Cry 5.
That's all I was doing. So I put in a good amount of hours and beat most of the main missions. There's like a few main missions in the story and stuff that I didn't finish. Loved it. Definitely favorite Far Cry game of the series so far. It might have snuck its way up to top... maybe top... no, I don't know why I say top 5.
Of games?
It's like top 10 of my game list. Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
probably towards the bottom. But just the sheer creativity that you can take into everything and just how ridiculous it is. It's just stupid fun. Like as a shooter itself, you can just like, I tend to be more of a stealth fan. So I love the ability to get weapons that are just for stealth. Like I'll get, the highest level sniper and like get a silencer for it. So it can like one hit anybody from a distance. I'll get
Which
the
is funny
range
because
scope.
like I hate stealth. I'm
Yeah,
so
so-
bad
I
at
hate
it. So
stealth
I
too.
But that's the
I
thing
love
though,
barging
is like
in and
you
just-
can totally play the game where it's like, if that's not your jam,
You just
you
run
can
and
get
gun
you just
in.
run in with like rocket launchers.
I can
and
run in
stuff
with
and,
my
like,
bear cheeseburger and
yeah,
blow
exactly.
up the whole
Like
stand.
you can play it completely differently and run in with like grenades and C4 and just chuck stuff everywhere and like wipe out a camp of guys in seconds by doing it that way. So really depends on like how you want to play. And I mean, people kind of critiqued it for being easier. I think it is to a level that just the guys aren't as aggressive, I would say. Like there were numerous times that like I was running around a I'm about to sneeze, so I'm trying to catch myself.
Here we go. Oh. That's how sneezes work. Yeah. Oh, bless you. May the Lord bless you. Bless you on the name of the Father, Son,
All
and
right.
Holy
Rapid
Spirit.
fire.
There we go. All right, got it out. So there were times where I was like running around an outpost, which that's one of the main parts of the game, which is my all-time favorite with Far Cry, where it's basically a little area. Sometimes it's as big as like a house or a mansion. Sometimes it's just as small as like a shack and a couple guys. And so you have to liberate it, which basically means taking out all the guys in the area. So you get bonuses where there's alarms there. And there's also, so you get awards if no one's alerted and alarms don't go off. You get awards if no one's alerted. And you get a lot like bonuses where people know you're there, but then you disable or destroy the alarms. So there's like kind of incentives to do that. So you get like more money when you clear them or stuff like that. But, it's just, there were times where I was running at a guy or something and you can just like speed by them so fast that the AI doesn't pick you up as you're sprinting at them, which I mean, some people could be like, oh, it's, it's sucky. Like AI sucks. Yeah, it does. But at the same time, it was a lot more fun with my double barrel shotgun, like sprinting and sliding behind a barrel and then popping up and just like capping some dude and then just sprinting through everybody. It's kind of like that power trip that
sounds like a very
that
violent
to me
game.
is, yeah, it's yeah.
I don't think I approve
One
of
of
that.
one of the boss fights is you have to have a sniper battle with one of the siblings, and I remember like you have to like, he's up at the top of a hill, and so you have to kind of like pick off some guys as you're going up. And I remember like I marked him so I could see his silhouette behind the rock or whatever. And so I like lined up my sight and I jumped up from the rock and like bang, right, like literally right through the forehead. I was like,
Ouch.
I'm pretty proud of that. And so I was like, oh,
You should have been like 360 no. Oh, and then you're dead.
and I'm like,
360
ooh,
no
whoops,
scope.
starting over. And they're like, rock. So anyway, dope game. I dig it. Ending, fascinating. Very, 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 very fascinating ending. So
Cool.
I would highly recommend if you're into cult stuff and shooters. This game is a very interesting mix of the two. I was kind of bummed. Like I wish they would have been a little more theological and philosophical with how they handled the ideology
But
of
it's
the
Far
cult.
Cry. It's hard to get in.
Exactly. Well, and it's like not really their goal in a way. Like their goal
Yeah.
isn't to make a grand statement about
Yeah.
something. I think it served as a very fun set piece to make everything going on more interesting. So, because in the other ones, it's like there really isn't like a moral compass. You're like, oh, I'm in Kurat, and there's these two siblings who are trying to overthrow this horrible person. I'm like, kind of on their
which
on
is
their
funny
side.
because like, have you done the ending where it's like you just wait for Pagan Min?
No, I haven't even or did I see that one?
All right.
I think he just takes you and you
This
bury
is
your mom's
this is kind of
ashes and-
spoiler, but like I mean, Far Cry 4's been out for how many years, so it's not a big deal. At
It's
the
like
very
2 or
end,
3, yeah.
the very end of Far Cry 4, you can do a thing where you can just
It's
wait
in the
for.
beginning, actually.
It's in the
So,
beginning, yeah. He's like, wait right here, but like the game kind of tells you to like sneak off and go and start the game, but you can just wait for Pagan Min, the main villain. He's like, sorry for the wait, but like, I appreciate your, willingness to just be patient, and then like you drop off your mom's ashes and then start like, and it's interesting because he apparently like he was trying to prevent someone's death or something like that. So like if anything, like people were theorizing saying that Pagan Min in reality was more of a hero than the two brother and sister were, which is interesting because it was like the way he phrased his theology around what he was doing was that like because like basically in essence all three of them are insane, but the thing with Pagan Min was that he was actually like wanting you to accomplish your goal the whole time. And in the process of that, he like his goal for you at the end was like, because at the very end you get in the helicopter, he's like, all right, now let's blow some stuff up, and then that's the end of it. When people were like, dude, that would have been great to like just fight for Pagan Min, and then
that would have been interesting. So and there's always an interesting twist on everything, but I think this
you
one
could
was
always be
very
like, oh, they should
clearly-
have done this or done that, but
right.
yeah.
I think this one had very clearly a more moral dilemma it was trying to put on you, which how successful I think is more subjective based on the person.
Right.
I thought it was interesting. I thought it was very cool. It's like I can't dive into it without spoiling it, but I think it posed a very, 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 very interesting question that I haven't seen a game recently navigating that topic pose, which I think was really cool. So I dug that. Everyone was freaking out about it and how they hated it and they thought it was a cop-out ending. I didn't think it was a cop-out ending at all. I thought it was actually really good. What else do I have on here? Started Pokemon Red.
Yeah,
Let's
buddy.
go. Gen
I forgot
1,
to mention that.
Gen
Yeah,
1.
Pokemon Platinum too. I've been
It's
playing hard.
It's fun. I think I avoided it because I mean they're on the 3DS and they're like $10 a piece for. It's like they have red, yellow, blue, silver, gold, and crystal.
Mhm.
So I picked those up and I'm just like, it's weird. I thought it was gonna be really hard to play something that is so old.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you think about it, it's like 20 years old. Like it's like old. It's not just
think
like
96
it's from
is when
my
it came out.
childhood. Yeah, so it's 2 years after I was born, which is like really weird to think that it's that long ago. But at the same time, it's really fun. It's cool to see how the concept has evolved and just how they've orchestrated everything there. Splatoon 2, I might actually go back and play that. I think it's next weekend. They're doing
All
they
the
do
Ninja
this like
Turtles thing.
Splatfest where
Yeah.
it's basically you like pick a side based on a question they ask, and then when you go to play online, you're grouped with all the people who pick that side.
So like the first one they did was like ketchup or mayonnaise, which
Yeah.
obviously ketchup is
Right,
superior.
and I think they've done some
Badass.
interesting ones. Like I didn't know they did one for like Transformers. They did one for SpongeBob, whereas like Patrick or SpongeBob, I think.
obviously Patrick.
Yeah, and but it was interesting because what's funny is at the end of every Splatfest they do a result of what are the numbers of who picked what, and then they do numbers of which team was better. So sometimes you'll get like, oh, everybody picks Patrick, but then like the SpongeBob players won more, and so it's like funny to kind of see that. So this theme they're doing Ninja Turtles, and granted it's kind of based on like the new designs, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I thought it was cool though.
Weird, but
Yeah, I thought it was cool because I was like, oh, I'm definitely gonna play, so I can get like T-shirts and stuff from those Splatfests. So I was like, I'm definitely going I'll log on literally
get a
just to
turtle
get
shirt.
my Ninja Turtle T-shirts and like play whenever I pick that up.
Do you know what the question was? Like who they're posing for? Is it like
So
wasn't
the
it like
fourth-
best turtle or something like that?
I'm not sure. I think it's the fourth is Ralph and
Leo.
Raph and Leo.
Ralphie.
Ralph.
That's worse than what did you Skeeter?
Raph and Leo the first one, and then Donnie and Mikey the next one. So I think you
that's
you
tough.
pick one. Yeah. So I was like, oh, that's a
Blue
good
and orange,
question.
baby. Blue and orange.
Really? I would say I'd
I'd
probably say
be-
Ralph and Mikey.
Leo and Donnie. I've
Is
liked
Leo
Leo
blue?
because he's
Leo's
the
blue,
leader.
right?
Yeah, I've liked Leo because he's the leader.
Why
but
would you don't even
Donnie-
need to ask that, but you did. Why did you ask that?
Normie, shame on you.
Frick, I'm the normie.
Yeah, you're
Frick,
the
I'm the
normie.
normie now. I'm the
I'm the
counterculture's
sheriff.
counterculture.
Guess what, Phil? I'm the sheriff.
I'm the
You're the
sheriff.
normie.
You're the normie.
Fudge.
Last two things. This one's a little more brief. There's a new 1-minute trailer for Attack on Titan season 3. Frick, dog. I'm so excited for that.
We're watching
Question
that
is-
every week.
Who's Kenny, aka our theory is that he is in secret Kendrick Lamar,
Yeah.
aka
Kung
Kung
Fu
Fu Kenny. Uh-oh.
Boom, boom, been in a weakness. That'd be, dude. I would
I'm
laugh
on the
so
top
hard
of
at that. Like,
It starts off the
Boom,
intro
boom.
song is Kendrick Lamar
Yeah, he's
singing
like,
in Japanese.
He's like, yeah. He's like, Hisashiburi da na, Levi. Boom, boom. Nobody pray for me. Boom.
that'd be amazing. Well, yeah. That'd be great.
Dude, no, that season 3 looks
It-
like
yeah.
it's gonna be a
they're
ride.
paying more FaceTime to the church. It sounds like they're going to be focusing on people versus people instead of scouts versus titans.
Which, for people that aren't familiar, this isn't really super spoiler territory, but Attack on Titan's been around since 2011, so if you don't know what's happening,
get with it.
go check it out.
It's on
It's
Hulu,
It's on
Crunchyroll,
Hulu and
whatever.
Crunchyroll.
that is one I can't recommend for we can't recommend for everyone because it's very violent.
It's very violent, very bloody, but every person who's been interested and all in an anime and has gotten into the show
I mean,
has
people who
absolutely
aren't even
gotten
interested
hooked.
Yeah.
in anime.
Who have,
Our-
yeah, and
our-
who,
Best example, our father who like never had any 0% interest in anime, this became like one of his favorite things.
yeah,
This is
Yeah,
the show.
he-
He was hooked.
yeah.
He watched it all by himself. All like
I
all
remember
grown up,
the
all by
first year
himself.
we like discovered it. Like we got like everybody in like the
We got like
Pentagon to watch
4.
it.
Yeah,
like,
we got like 4
Corey
people,
and Tom and like just
Yup.
people like you'd never expect to watch
and
anime.
they
and
were
stuff, so.
soups into
Everybody
it.
was into it.
So
I think I've
it's-
seen it like 3 times. all
Yeah,
way
the
through.
narrative is incredibly deep. It's the way they execute information reveals and different things are just gut wrenching.
It just leaves you itching for more. You're just
Yeah,
like,
every
Yeah.
episode you're like, please give me more. I do know though for a fact that some people have a hard time with the first 5 episodes because they're very like world building and
Yeah.
character building. But as soon as episode 6 and 7 roll
No,
around,
I would even say episode 5.
I think
'cause
you're
I
right.
remember specifically because like I was watching it with our father. Our father.
Our Father.
I was watching it with our dad, and we got to episode 5, and he was like, "All right, after this one, we'll like take a break." And there was like it was like the first giant cliffhanger, and I think you guys know what it was.
Yep.
Mhm.
There's a giant cliffhanger, and he just like turned to me, and he was like, "We're watching the next one."
Yeah.
And we watched the first 9 episodes in one sitting. He was into
get
it,
hooked.
and it is that good.
I think that's what we did when you were showing it to
Yup.
me. I got to 5 and I was like, I got to keep going. Like I can't leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. So once you get to episode 5, that's when everything just kicks
Yep.
off, and it literally does not stop.
It
does
never
not
stops.
stop.
It does
Yeah.
not stop from there. Even through 2 seasons, like it just
And people
Yeah.
are saying that the 3rd season is going to be like 25 episodes this time instead of
Good.
like
I need
13 or
more.
whatever.
yeah, I know.
And they're
really.
saying it goes up till like 90-ish chapters. And I think there's 104 right now. So
oh wow,
it's
so
going to like cover a
catch
lot
up.
of ground. So
Yeah.
Frick, dude.
I'm excited that they're
Ugh.
finally catching what do you call it? They're getting a good pace where they can like release it now. And
Right. I
we
think
don't
Yeah.
have to wait 3
I know
years
that
or
Well, I
there
think
were-
it's because what happened was they created Attack on Titan, and then all the creators went separate ways. But then the world literally blew up for how good, like, it became
Yeah,
probably the
it
most
became
popular
like a-
thing in Japan.
yeah.
Like, it was literally, there was a theme park ride at Universal Studios that got that popular in Japan. And so I think what probably happened was that all the creators were like, oh, everyone loves this, we should probably help out again, and then
right.
got back on it. And I mean, I can imagine they're getting paid big bucks for it.
Oh, dude, it's probably ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think the other thing with the show too is that they were waiting. There was a weird stretch of I was reading something about when people were predicting when season 2 was going to start because they just had no idea. With anime, it's much harder to get it
Yes.
serialized and to get it funded because usually it's very common for shows that are like okay. Like for example, like Dead Man Wonderland. I like watched the first season. It's like it's fine. It's not amazing, but they just did like 1 season. That was it. The manga's still going, but the show they were like there wasn't enough interest. Whereas Attack on Titan, after season 1, it like I
blew
think
up.
you said Z. It just
Yeah.
they had no idea it was gonna happen.
The anime
and then-
industry is a very interesting field because there's just so much uncertainty.
Yep.
With manga's easy because with manga they have multiple publishers. They have multiple publishers that produce these magazines that do, and that's why I like Shonen Jump a lot. Shonen Jump does like One Piece, Naruto, My Hero Academia, all the big ones and stuff, and other really famous ones. But what they have started doing now is like they'll release. There was one that was really interesting that someone showed. They'll release like the first chapters and be like, this is a part of our new like Shonen Jumpstart program where it's like we're launching these series and like testing audiences basically, but like showing, giving authors these chance to like show their stuff in like a serialized Shonen Jump magazine and then see what happens. There's one, it was called Noah's Notes, I think. It was really interesting. It was like basically this girl and this dude do a little time traveling, maybe a little Back to the Future-esque.
Interesting.
No, I don't think it was like that. It was just like an idea of just traveling in time and stuff is always fun. And it like, I can't give it justice because I didn't read up on it at all, but it looked interesting. And there's stuff like that. But yeah, with Attack on Titan, I think it's just going to be such a big, and season 3 just, it's going to be good. We're all excited.
It looks nuts. It looks crazy. Yeah, I'm stoked.
And I'm glad Levi's back, my boy.
Yep.
He was,
Yeah.
well, I won't share what happened. But
Yeah, and I'm literally in my Attack on Titan hoodie right now. So
Let's
I'm like,
go.
I'm
Represent.
soups. And then my last thing is, it's pop culture in the sense that I found it the other day, and I was like, oh, this is dope.
I found this rock on the ground, and everyone was like, hey, that's
like,
pretty cool.
I'm gonna take it home and make it my pet. I was like, but there's a comic book artist who is famous for Spawn and one of the runs of Spider-Man, Todd McFarlane. And there's an interview with, I think I wrote it down here, Complex, which is a YouTube channel. So if you just YouTube Todd McFarlane Complex interview, there is just a fascinating interview where they sit down and talk to him about how he started Image Comics and like his process for
he's
his
fascinating.
business.
That was a fascinating interview.
Very, very, very.
He's very like creatively minded, but also business minded. So he has
Yeah.
a very practical perspective on
Yep.
like the comics industry and kind of like if you want something, just do it. Like if you see something missing in the
Yep.
industry, well, I just did it. I like did this, and it was fascinating. Because as soon as you send it to me,
Yeah.
I just like popped my headphones in. I was like, all right, I'm checking this out.
Seeing the
Yeah.
creative process for really any medium is super interesting.
Mhm.
That's what I found.
Right.
Especially people who are really passionate
Yeah.
about like pushing the
'Cause
medium.
it is
forward.
interesting that some creators just aren't that like interesting to listen to, or some of them are just so push away in their like they're so caught up in their own process that they're just like
Well, I think some of it
No,
too, though, is I think there is a strange thing, and I do not have this mentality at all because I think it can be kind of dangerous and off-putting. I do think there's a strange thing in the creative community of guarding your secret, that it's kind of your secret sauce, and I'm not going to tell people how I did it because I don't want them going and doing it too. So there's like a guardedness of like, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to speak.
Secret
I think
to your
some people
success,
genuinely
basically, yeah.
do just, they're like, I don't know, I just do it. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's
Well, that's
thing.
how
that's-
Todd was. He's just like, there's no secret. Like,
but that was his thing, is he had very specific, which is what I loved about it, is he goes into, he started drawing, he's like, I just drew Spider-Man. He's like, I looked at comics and I was like, this sucks. Like, the art isn't
Yeah.
good. He's like, I'm going to
I
make
could
it
do
look
this.
cool. He's
I
like,
could
I
draw
could do
crappy Spider-Man.
Yeah, he's like, his whole thing, his whole mentality of why he got into it was literally that I could draw just as good, if not better than this. And if they're doing this and making money, I could totally do this. And so he did it. And then all of a sudden, like, then he's known for making like one of the most like loved stylized Spider-Man with the big eyes and the bold lines.
And it was interesting because he kept saying, like, people would tell me, like, stop drawing Spider-Man like that. Like, stop doing that. Stop doing that. He's like, no, I'm not going to stop.
yeah, and then
And
that's
he, like,
how Spider-Man-
revolutionized.
yeah. And then he created Spawn and
Started
that
Image
career. He
Comics.
started Image and
Yeah.
has a very, very fascinating business model. But like you said, Phil, he just goes into like what makes him such a dangerous creative person in the business world. And I think it was very inspiring being a creative and wanting to make my own stuff and kind of market it or get it out there at some point, like when it's ready, of just like having a price. I think the minor takeaway that if anyone's, interested, is he just had a very fascinating thing of like, if you do something well enough, like people will pay you to do it. And you just have to be willing to have like a price, basically. So then once people get to a certain thing, it's like, what is, you will always have the upper hand. So his mentality was, I need to be able to live off of $80,000. Like, I just need to be able to have $80,000. I don't need a mansion. I don't need to be constantly being a millionaire. I just need to have enough to live and like pay my bills and all this stuff. And so for him, he was like, so when people are coming to him for buying the rights to his comics or offering to do XYZ, he's like, and they're asking him to do stuff he doesn't want to do. He's like, fine, I don't want to do that. And they're like, yeah, but like, we're going to pay you this much. He's like, no, I'm not going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he's like, you constantly have the upper hand. No one can get you out of it because
No
they're
one can, like,
chasing
shoulder
money.
you into doing things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he's like, so I'm always in control and I get to do with it what I want. And I was like, very, very, very unconventional and uncommon opinion. Very much in line with how I would want to think and approach stuff in the future. So it's very, very cool.
You don't want to
if
be a
you're creative.
sellout.
Well, I mean, I think this, like, that's a, I know we need to talk about these two movies and it's going to be like another hour,
Yeah,
but
I'll spin through my
yeah.
things quick.
Just like a side thing on that is I think like there's a difference between selling out and like monetizing your thing.
No, yeah, I was
effectively.
going to say that too. There's a YouTuber that I follow who went into that and talking about why he does advertising for his stuff and why he puts advertisements, and he's like, it's like, this is my living. I need to make money. I don't do this because it's like, oh, like, oh, dude, I can get rich if I just show this commercial on my show. He was like, no, it's like, this is my livelihood. Why wouldn't I monetize it? Like, I
Right.
should monetize
When-
versus like having the money and having so much influence and money already, but then adding more onto it for like doing something that, this is what he said, is he was like, I put on advertisement stuff only, and I advertise stuff only with things that I know I'm comfortable with sharing and believe in the product. But he said, I'm never, ever going to do something that like goes against what I believe or goes against like something I don't want to advertise on my show, or, like saying basically, I don't want to make money off of me going against my character was a big thing, or going against like my process.
Yeah, because and that's McFarlane's point too, is I am solely in the business of making money to make art, to make more stuff. And that's what a lot of people say, but I think how he specifically approaches it, it's like, which means I'm going to own my own stuff. And like, I want to do what I want to do with it. And I will always put myself in a position that if that is becoming jeopardized of being in control of my content and what I make, I'm just not interested. And like, I'm not going to do that thing. So yeah, I kind of like am frustrated how, I mean, this is just like the judgmental part of our culture, especially in the art world, is it's like, if you get money for doing something that you're good at, even if it's creative, it's like, oh, you're a sellout. It's like, no, it's like, it's just, that's the reality. Like, I think of myself, I love Spider-Man enough. I'm going to buy a t-shirt, but like, you get 500 people to buy a $20 t-shirt. And if you make all the t-shirts yourself from like a simplistic business model, that's like,
that's
however much
especially
money.
prevenant in like the music world. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
Frank Turner that I listened to, like the first time he got an apartment, people called him a sellout.
Yeah,
'Cause he
it's
had
like,
a place
are you
he's like,
serious?
just because I have a place to live, like I'm a sellout.
Right, exactly. It's like, get off. It's like, come off it. It's
Yeah.
just, it's ridiculous. So,
For sure.
but yeah, there's a difference, but it's very, very, very fascinating. So if you consider yourself a creative or
Check out
like
the interview.
interested, check out the interview.
It's
Todd
not too long either.
McFarlane, Complex,
Yeah,
with Complex, yeah.
for sure.
So it's awesome.
Cool. And for me, I think Hellboy is shaping up to be my favorite comic so far
Ooh.
of all time. I just love the art style and love the storytelling, and the character is just funny and interesting. So, another one I finished was Ronin, which is about a feudal era samurai who like loses his master and he becomes a Ronin, and basically he gets like somehow incarnated in like the 21st century, and now he's like a lost Ronin who can't speak English and stuff. And it's by Frank Miller. It's weird. The art style is odd, but the story was kind of interesting, so I read that.
Nice.
Another one, The Patrons Part 1 was a Kickstarter I discovered. It's like a
Oh yes, I
It's-
funded that
yeah.
too. Yeah,
yeah, I got
Shout
grabbed
out
the
to them.
$25 thing.
Yeah, we're trying to reach out to them to see if we can touch base. So we might see if this summer, if they're not too busy working on
yeah,
producing it, they want a guest.
because there's not a lot of cyberpunky stuff out there that I found yet.
Mhm.
And as soon as I saw the art for that on Reddit, I was like, what is this? And I discovered it. They have like a Kickstarter and everything. So it's called
Nice.
The Patrons.
The Patrons.
It looks
it's-
amazing.
I can't remember what the
I was
premise
surprised.
is, but I think it's kind of like some soldier, or it's some government soldier type officials who kind of have to choose between doing their work and protecting like what they think is right. And
Yeah.
there's there's all sorts of stuff involved, and the art is very, very cool. It's almost like a painted cyberpunk
Yeah.
vibe. So did you check out the link, Z, by chance?
I did not. I saw that it was a Kickstarter, but I didn't look at the art.
Yeah, we'll
The
have
art
to show
looks
you.
amazing.
So
yeah.
it's pretty freaking cool.
Yeah.
Cool. The Patrons.
And then another one I read is called Black Sad, which was crime noir novel, graphic novel that I think it's by either French or Spanish artist. Actually, it was translated to English, but it's like it has anthropomorphic characters, and it's just a really good like crime. I like crimey like noir type stuff.
That's interesting.
So it's very good.
Have you read Mouse
storytelling.
before?
I haven't. I need to read that.
It's that's like, I think people cite that as like one of the most influential like graphic
Yeah, it's always
novels.
in the top 10 list.
It's super good. I remember reading it in the 7th grade
Mm-hmm.
back in middle school and being like, man, comic books can be like really dark and scary, but
Yeah,
it's really good.
yeah.
Mouse is
Excited to read
basically
that
about
one.
like, it's like anthropomorphic mice, but it's World War II.
And Hitler's like a cat or something.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
Nazis are cats and
Yeah.
people that, the Jews and whatnot are mice, but yeah, really interesting.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, this Black Sad one was interesting. It was interesting seeing like how they played with different things, and I think it takes place during like the 50s. So there's one where he's in like the South, and there's like a Nazi type movement starting, and like the animals with the white fur are like killing the animals with the black fur and stuff, and it's just it was just interesting the different, because I think there's 3 of them, so then they did like 3 different type of like crime stories. So it's fascinating, really good artwork and good storytelling. And then Under Oath's new album came out a couple of weeks ago, and I listened to that.
You're a big Under Oath fan, right?
Yeah, I liked them a lot in the past because they're probably like the best like Christian emo
Sure.
music that came out during that era.
I love my God. I love my. Sorry.
But
I
it's,
didn't mean to make fun.
it was so like during that era they were like, I think actually they were like one of the top like emo bands like during that era, like actual good like music, which is surprising because most Christian music tends to be crap and derivative of what exists.
It's true.
That's my tilting opinion.
Yeah.
But they just released a new album, which is interesting because one of their singers, when their drummer left, he left to do his own thing, and like he was in a worship band and stuff, and then he came back, but the other guy kept going with Under Oath. He's their screamer, and he kind of like got disillusioned because like he wasn't like as intense with the Christian stuff anymore, and so like their fans basically like turned against him and was like, "You're a terrible person, like you're not Christian anymore, like we hate you." And they just basically like shouted him down and acted like the opposite of what Christians should do. And so this whole album is like them coming back after like 5 years, and the other dude joined again. He's the drummer again. And like this whole album is just him like venting like, "You people abandoned me, and like I'm not coming back to your faith." So it's interesting because like the other dude's still a Christian, and it's kind of like a Korn situation. The other dude's still a Christian, and like the lyrics are kind of like this interplay between a dude who's like, "I want to believe, but like I just can't go back to like what that was because you people showed me that you're just hypocrites and like you don't really believe what you say you believe," sort of thing. So it's pretty fascinating. I thought it was. The sound is very different. It's got a lot more like synthy sounds and different things.
I'll have to check that out.
You might like it. It's not emo anymore. But it's pretty good.
Definitely.
A lot more screaming and a lot less like clean vocals.
Cool.
So
yeah, side shout out from that too. I've been a huge Project 86 kick, and I think it's their first album from the 2000s. Drawing Black Lines, really good. Holy crap! Like, I think I like it better than their newer stuff, but it's got that early 2000s nu metal. Like, you can definitely tell that that's their influence, and they use their lead singer's vocals to really enhance, because he doesn't do a lot of like melodic singing. He kind of does that like talking thing, and some screaming and stuff. But I feel like that was the pinnacle of using his voice in that scene, in that nu metal, because that's probably my favorite metal subgenre is that, and so it's really dope. So Drawing Black Lines by Project 86 is it's like the One-Armed Man, I think, is like one of their top songs.
The One-Armed Man.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
The Under Oath album is called Erase Me, by the way.
Cool. I'll have to check that out. Do we want to talk trailers before we deep dive into...
Yeah, let's do that quick.
What trailers caught your guys' eye?
Deadpool?
There's Deadpool 2.
Oh, yes.
And then the Venom trailer. So
that I saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No?
It looks really interesting and it has potential, but I don't know. There's something about it that it seemed kind of off, I guess, because I feel like if it was in the context of the Spider-Man world, maybe that's why it's because it's taken out.
It technically
is
because they're building like a Spider universe, like Sony's building a separate.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm.
Which I think Tom Holland will be a part of, actually.
Oh, really?
Because they own Spider-Man still, so they're just loaning him to Disney.
for Homecoming.
Basically, until Disney
Until
makes
Sony wants to cash
however
in,
much money
yeah.
on this, and like,
I mean, Sony
can't-
has the rights to distribute the Spider-Man films, and Disney has the rights to use the characters. So they have a partnership deal.
Why don't they just like buy out Spider-Man then?
Probably because Sony won't sell it.
yeah.
Because Sony's like, we're not letting go of this character after all this money Marvel's making
And I feel
now.
like that's a perfect balance because they're
Yeah.
going to make even more money because they're going to make the character better, and then
Yep.
they get to live. They basically get to leech off of
Bas-
DVD
yeah,
sales
basically.
and stuff like that. So that's a good
So,
system, good
yeah.
business plan. I dig it.
But yeah, like you said, I guess you can say it 'cause,
my analogy for it is I watched it. I think it's going to be exactly like Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, where they were not amazing. I would not say that they were the best Marvel world movies ever made, from like story or just like how whatever, all the technical bits, but they were good. Like, I watched them, I enjoyed them, I don't regret. It wasn't like watching the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and I was like, this is horrid. Like, this is just straight trash.
Come to the dark side.
Bone saws
Get emo
ready.
Spidey out of here.
Pizza time.
But I think it's gonna be fine. I think not that I don't have high expectations or hopes, but I think I'm just keeping it. I don't know what it's gonna be like. I don't know how they're gonna address it. Tom Hardy is the lead. He's done a great job in all the other
Bane.
roles that I've seen him in.
I was born in the dark.
Was he Bane?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
was
was.
Bane.
I was born.
You don't merely adopted it.
I have ironed your clothes, Batman.
So I think it's gonna be good, and I really like that this is a movie because I thought it was gonna be a villain movie where this is establishing him and they're gonna use him in something, but the fact that he's the anti-hero, dope.
So that
I'm
means
all
there's
in.
going to be a really
Yeah.
bad dude.
That'd have been
Yeah.
cool if he was just a villain, though. I think that would have been interesting.
I think it would have been
concept.
interesting.
I would have liked that a
but I
little bit
like-
more,
I
like
like
seeing a
that-
villain movie.
I like that
Did-
they're making it. I think in doing it though, they're making it about Tom Hardy's character. I can't remember. It's like Brock something.
Eddie
right?
Brock?
Eddie Brock. They're making it Eddie Brock versus the symbiote, which I think is going to be very interesting.
Yeah,
Well,
but-
for,
so
I
in that
think-
sense, it is a villain movie because
Right.
Venom's still a bad guy. So it's almost like
Right.
the tension between a guy who wants to be good and the guy who's like,
Because like in the
Latching
trailer,
onto him.
did you see
I
it?
did watch the trailer.
Like
yeah.
his line of like, "We only kill bad people," and like Venom's like, "We're gonna see about that."
Yeah.
And so
No, and I do
I think
like
that's
that
gonna be
aspect
cool.
too. Like I really liked the scene when like the CIA guys busted in, then he just like out of like he was like, whoa, what the frick's going on? But then like the Venom just shoots out of him, and
Yep.
that was like I like that play of him not being willing to fight or attack, but then Venom
Mhm.
acting on its own. Like that's an interesting concept. It's more just and honestly, all the other characters outside of Tom Hardy seemed kind of stiff.
yeah, and
that was
that's
like that villain dude, like the one guy that's like running the symbiote experiment,
Right.
seemed really
generic, He
really
seems
generic. Yeah.
But that's why I think it's gonna be a fine movie. I remember the same thing from Amazing Spider-Man's. Like, Andrew Garfield was definitely the highlight to me in those movies. Everyone else was like fine. Like they did their
They felt
their
like
job.
side
Oh,
characters.
who played Gwen again?
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone's did
I
pretty
thought
good.
she was
Yeah,
a-
she
she was
did
a good
job.
Gwen.
right, but
Everyone
it
outside
wasn't
of
like
that,
we're so
then,
used to
yeah.
the Marvel. Like my analogy was, it's going to be better than DC, but it's not going to be as good as Marvel.
Yeah.
Like
It's like an
Cinematic
in
Marvel
between.
universe. It's going to be
yeah.
like in between. It'll be fine. So,
So
but
that scene at the
it's-
end where his head just goes.
yeah, dude, that CGI thing. I was
I'm
like,
like,
that's going to be fun. But
I really hope Carnage is the bad guy,
that'd be sweet.
but
Do you think
it's
it'll
gonna
be PG-13 or R?
It's.
I really
R,
hope
think.
it's R.
Is it?
I think it'll be.
I
I
R.
really
will.
hope
I will
it's-
give it a shot then.
I feel like if
R.
it's not R, it's gonna
It's
be.
good.
Yeah.
I think that's a great qualification. If it's not R, it's gonna suck. I think
Yeah.
because they're gonna pull the
it'll be
punches.
it'll be muted when
Yeah.
Venom is inherently a character of
He's supposed to
destruction.
be violent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
Should be interesting.
Yep.
It's also. I want to see how, because in the comics, Venom looks like he does because his first person was Spider-Man. So like, because he looks like the way he does because Spider-Man was the first person he like infected. So I'm curious to see how
Hmm.
they explain why he looks like Spider-Man, even though Eddie Brock is the first.
yeah, maybe he
But-
sees Spider-Man or something.
Maybe.
He's
maybe
like, hey,
maybe we'll get a
Spider-Man's-
Spider-Man cameo. in
Spider-Man's
this
pretty
one.
cool.
That'd be weird.
Get a little Tom
Interesting.
Holland.
Yeah. Or to be
Still
like
the best
Andrew
Spider-Man.
Garfield. They'll go pay him a visit. They'll like be doing. If this is like in the Amazing Spider-Man universe, but
That'd be interesting.
I think they kicked him or Andrew Garfield
No,
out
they
hard. 'Cause
they
he
kicked
was,
him out.
which
'Cause
sucks. But
I think Andrew Garfield is technically still like Sony's Spider-Man too. So like they could use him as
that'd
a
be kind of
character
cool.
in there.
I'd be
So
fine.
like in their Spider-Verse, they could use him. So it'd be interesting if they like combine those or something.
That's too
Mhm.
much verses, man.
Spideyverse. Yeah, too many Spideys.
Spideyverse.
Deadpool 2. Dude, that movie.
It's gonna be good.
I'm Peter. I saw the ad. You're in.
Yeah.
What's
Do
your
you
power?
have
I don't really have a power. I
just-
just saw the ad. He's like, you're in.
Oh, that yeah. I
Hey, Thanos.
So dark. Are you not sure you're from the DC universe? It's gonna be great.
Deadpool's he's still probably my favorite superhero. I would say
He's up there for
it's
me.
just ridiculous. I love it. I love the first Deadpool movie very much. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great.
and this one just like looks like more insanity, which I think yeah, I'm excited for that.
I'm just really sad Hugh Jackman's gone because I really wanted to see his Wolverine and Deadpool like
Banter a little
meet
bit.
each other. Yeah.
I would laugh
today,
really
bub.
hard if there is. I bet you there's gonna be some call out to the
Although-
Logan movie where
yeah.
it's gonna be like, oh, too soon.
Well, they
Like-
they already did that in the trailer because I think I told you guys. Spoiler alert for Logan because it spoiled it for me. Like the trailer for Deadpool 2 says like from the studio that killed Wolverine.
Oh yeah.
Because I saw that and I haven't seen Logan yet, so I was like,
You're like, come on, man.
I mean like, as much as it was kind of like, oh, what, he dies, but I was like, I'm not super surprised because everyone said how sad Logan is.
Yeah, I mean the trailers and everything, the tone of the movie kind of like gives you the sense that it's like his swan song. Like,
Yeah.
this is Logan's.
Still want to see it though, and
It's
I'm
really-
guessing you
it's
guys
really
both
good.
would still recommend it. So
Oh,
It's one of my
100%.
favorite Marvel films, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So,
fantastic.
yeah.
Definitely.
well,
Well,
a little preface. What
yeah.
are your guys' favorite Marvel movies? If you had to name one.
oh gosh, that's tough.
That was actually one of my questions too.
Oh, really?
Or like, what's your
Perfect.
favorite superhero in the MCU?
Yeah,
specifically?
Oh,
yeah,
and
we'll.
Do we
tie
want to
those
talk
together.
about A Quiet Place first?
Let's
and
do
then-
that, and then we'll just hardcore dive because we're at.
We'll just
and-
say we saw A Quiet Place last week, and for me, it was freaky, but not like horrific or scary. It was
Yep.
just dreadful.
You got it.
we had this whole discussion, which we probably shouldn't have, just because we don't have time. But
Well,
No, I can.
simple,
you could
basic
just
preface.
yeah.
Yeah, Phil and I were on the same page. I think we really liked it.
Mhm.
I think Zach and I had a conversation afterwards that I think you have more experience with those movies, and so your
Not even those movies. I just say horror in general.
so like
what
your
scares me and what doesn't,
information
yeah.
that you're pulling from is like a little more more broad, and so I think like you have more almost like more insight
Yeah.
into like what you enjoy or don't enjoy, whereas I think for both of us, like I think we literally
This is
watched
the
The
first
Village together,
like,
and like
thriller
that
movie
was
I've seen in like 10 years. So.
yeah. So we were like, so
Yeah.
we were like, whoa, this is awesome, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
And
It
I'm
was
just
more
a huge
dread.
fan of like concept
Yeah.
things, like things that are based around concepts. So.
yeah. It was more like a movie of dread than it was like horror.
But did you
and-
guys feel scared during the movie?
I
Oh,
don't think
absolutely.
so.
Yeah. Well, it depends how you define scared.
Yeah, I think
Like,
that's
was I on the edge of my seat
were
about
you
ready to
yeah, were you
scream?
feeling
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. If it wasn't so quiet, I would have screeched. Like I was covering I had like my hood up, and I
Dude,
was like,
Yeah, I
I was
saw
getting
that.
ready to cover my eyes.
Yeah, from my predictions last week, I definitely heard all the oh frick.
Oh,
Frick.
frick.
I was thinking in my head too. I'm like, it's too quiet in here, so I can't say it. But I was like,
It was so funny. And then I remember distinctly there was one point where you were like, no.
Yeah, when
oh no.
Oh, wait, wait,
the
wait.
specific part that you didn't like when the
Yeah.
bing.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
It's funny because that
like
that beca-
audibly, I was like, ah.
Yeah.
That was hilarious.
Okay, so I'll share my piece. So Josh and Phil both adored it and thought it was very intense, and the concept is good. I was the anti one and was kind of like
Anti-punk.
It was
I was the
counterculture.
anti-
Counterculture.
I'm the
Counterculture.
counterculture.
So
I'm the-
countercultural.
I'm the counterculture to the counterculture.
Bring it
It's
to the
like,
pit, my friend. Let's mosh.
Oh no.
Oh no.
But I don't want to go in the
I
pit.
don't want to mosh. So I came off of it being like it was pretty good, but that kind of put a damper on Josh and Phil's pure excitement. Not saying
No,
we
I
had
mean,
good
yeah.
We were running on adrenaline.
Yeah.
Like we were just like
I mean, I had a half a gallon of Mountain Dew at that point, so
Yeah. I was
what's your critical critique? I think like
so I went in really I think wanting to be scared because this is my first. I honestly like I've seen a lot of horror stuff. This is my first time like seeing a horror movie in theaters. I'm pretty sure. So I was like ready to get scared and be on the edge of a seat like you guys were, but I wasn't. I think early on when you didn't know much about the creature, and this is I'll break into the conversation. So I did talk to two of my friends about Quiet Place who also saw it. One of them is our lovely friend Tom Jokey.
Nintendo expert and pet rock lover.
Our friendly neighborhood Tom Jokey, and he had the exact same opinion as I did. He saw it with a friend that got scared, and he was like, "It was all right, it was okay," and I was like, "Yep," and so Is it okay if we go into spoiler territory?
As of this moment, right now, I will make sure it's noted in the description. There will be spoilers from here on out for A Quiet Place.
Yes.
You have been warned. Pause it. I will mark the point where you can pick it up again.
Skip, and we'll talk about our next topic.
Spoilers recommence in 3, 2, 1.
I talked to Tom and I talked to my friend Morgan, and both of them had the same thing. So when I talked to Tom Jokey, he was like, I had one really big gripe with it. Why did they have a baby? I was like, yes! Why did they have the baby? Because that was one of my biggest gripes of the movie, and that was probably one of our biggest arguments and discussions. Is Josh for those of you that saw the movie, Josh went down the route of, well, they were missing their kid and they wanted to have a baby and that, so you can't really control that. I was like, okay, that's sort of valid, but the problem is the movie established them as such caretakers and so nitpicky about being careful. I mean, in a good way, because you have to be. And that movie did a really good job of like how careful they were. But that's such a big brash thing to do in the world that they're in the context of like how they handle themselves in that world. It wouldn't make sense having a baby, and that's exactly what Tom Jokey felt too. And I
was just gonna say, for me with the baby thing, I felt like I agreed with that, but at the same time, the fact that they did have the baby, like, exemplified the fact of like, even in like this post-apocalyptic situation, like, people still have a desire to have a family and to like, well, I mean,
get it
on the basis, but it's like it's an example of like.
The
world moves on. Like
way.
the world still needs to move on and whatever. So it's kind of like they haven't lost their ability to be human.
Yeah, and I do see the point in that, but at the same time too, that wasn't really exemplified, and it's hard to because it's A Quiet Place. It's a silent movie, but this is the thing I told Josh that was a big complaint for me. The times that they do talk are really, really poorly delivered line wise. Like,
it's very unhelpful dialogue.
Yes, and I remember you agreed with me on that. Yeah. So like two of the two moments that I cite, one of them was when they're at the creek. Totally fine that they're talking, but the boy, in the context of the scene, the boy is like scared to go on this trip with his dad, and he's like, even when they get to the river, he's terrified, and like he drops this fish that makes a huge sound, and then he's like, oh, and then the dad's like, it's okay, and he's like, we can talk here, like the river's loud enough, and then the boy's like still like shaken by it. Literally cuts to the mom and at the house, cuts back to the John Krasinski and his son, and the kid just like calmly is like, do you love the daughter's name? Like, do you love your daughter? And he was like, yeah, of course I do. He's like, you should tell her that. And I was like, who the frick made you the dad? Like, who gave you the big boy pants to, resolve your family? It was the way it was delivered was just like, one, a kid would not have that kind of insight. Like Josh made the point of he's closer connected to the daughter or his sister, so that makes sense. But kids are not that eloquent in speech and trying to establish for their father that they should be a better figure for their daughter. And in the context of how frightened that kid was, and he's established throughout the movie as being like the nervous, scared one, for him to just be calmly, eloquently explain that in the context of the movie that is about being quiet, it was really weird.
Yeah,
and that really, really jarred me. So.
I think in a weird way, building on your point, like I don't know if I had the words to process it, but I think the movie itself, I loved it. I think as a concept movie itself, it was brilliant. Like the execution, just how they filmed it, they really used the idea that Alfred Hitchcock uses, which is the idea of suspense. It's a very suspenseful movie. Yeah, it's scary and creepy, but it's more about what's going to happen, and it's killing you inside because until it happens, you're like, oh, I know what's coming. I think it suffered from something that I hesitate to say that the horror genre suffers from. The horror genre. But I think it's horror is predicated on human error and flaw, and I think when that's not balanced with like decision reality and humanity and everything else going, it makes it really it can seem off. And I think depending on how much you're willing to allow that to happen in a story, it could hinder or just pass off. And so I think for you, and even thinking about it now, there are some things where it's like they have to have flaws as characters, but it's hard because the whole movie is built on you basically can't screw up or else you're dead.
Right.
But then the things that they do are like defensible in that, yes, you have a kid because your other kid died because you screwed up.
Yeah.
But then it's also like, but if you like, maybe you should be thinking through like not having a kid because you're like, I don't want to be subject to that. Like, let's figure out this world first and then do this. And even though they like had the plan to show that, okay, we've like had the kid, we've thought through it, we have a way to like keep it quiet and like keep it safe and all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. They still... Like
it's still
there's
caused
still
an
human
issue.
error,
It's
and there's
there was
still like
still an issue
catastrophic issues, and as a result,
exactly,
it's like, you have to have that flaw, and there needs to be flaws because that's like what horror is about, is like making a mistake, and like, oh, this mistake is gonna have all these like really bad repercussions, but then it's like, but why wouldn't you just not do this?
Well, yeah, I think
Right.
that's just the common horror trope. Though.
Right.
Like you're like,
But
oh,
there
why
are
did you
horror
do that?
movies
Why
that-
did you go into the room that made the sound when you know that some freaking creepy dude is
But
in
I
this
think the
house?
best horror movies, though, and I mean, like, The Shining's the only example I can use, and I won't get into that because I've talked about it before, but there are horror movies that do pull outside of the horror trope and just play on certain things of the scenario itself and making scenarios more simplistic so that the situation is less, like, because it's a simplistic scenario that they're initially put in. So, like, The Shining, for example, they're put into a haunted hotel, but they don't say flat. And this is a big point that our friend Tom Jokey made that I really agree with. He said for him, initially the creature was sort of scary, but he said he felt like they showed him too much and really early on. And he said as soon as you see the whiteboard with the simplistic, like, you know, can't see, affected, like, can hear sound, weaknesses, question mark, like, it was this simplistic thing, and all the stuff points to like, oh, okay, so these creatures can hear, and if you move you die, and like, obviously that's the concept in the movie, but he was saying the horror and the suspense is taken out because, okay, so they can't make a sound or this creature will get them. It wasn't this thing of they were trying to learn what the situation was, it was them trying to survive the situation, and then just happened at the very end to figure out, oh, the hearing piece causes the issue and stuff like that. And I
Which
had a
would have
friend
been a
too.
different movie, probably. Like
Yeah.
if the movie was about them trying to learn how to survive,
Which is
because
that was-
we basically
yeah.
get, well, they know how to survive now because they have this whole complex built around
Right.
it.
Well, and that's what I was telling one of my other friends who also was like, why do they have to have a baby? Excuse me, a baby? Why'd you have a baby? What a baby? The other part too with that was at the, where was I going to go with that? I totally lost my train of thought. I mean, she one of my friends said she didn't like the ending when she just cocked the gun and that was it. She was
I
like,
loved
okay,
it.
she was like, okay, that's bad, eh? But like, she's like, that didn't really resolve anything.
Right, yeah.
So that was kind of, and for a horror movie like that, you should have some resolution. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. I think if the movie went on a route, and this would be a little a la Walking Dead, but it would be more interesting if it was just John Krasinski and the deaf girl. I think if it was those two, like, traversing, trying to survive and figure out how to stop it, like, and it was through him being with his daughter trying to fix this thing, and then that happens, that would be okay. And I think that actually would have been really, really interesting.
I really like that idea.
But the problem was when you have this context of keeping the family together, trying to survive as a family, it's like, yeah, but that just leaves more room for dumb errors that we can't relate to as well, because not everyone watching this movie has a family like, oh, I would protect my family during, you know, like the people.
But maybe
going,
that's the audience they were trying to reach, though. Like maybe because I feel like the movie you're suggesting is just a different movie in the same world. Like you could create the similar. It'd be like The Last of Us or something, like a father-daughter type movie.
Yeah,
Which is a different type of film. Like this wasn't trying to be that, I think.
Yeah, and
this was trying to be a family, like, what would you do as a family unit? And we can't relate to that because we're not families.
Yeah.
But
and I get that they were going that route too. I think the problem with having so many more characters in that, especially in a family context, causes those kinds of issues of like, why would you have a baby? Like, why wouldn't you look out for the freaking nail that sticks? My friend Morgan also had a problem with the nail, so I was not alone on that. She was like, oh, the nail. And I was telling Josh and Phil, because both of them presented like, oh, well, when they took a long shot on something, it was exemplifying that like this will cause an issue. I really, really do not like that. I don't like that the camera takes like a good 3 seconds to look and be like, all right, you see this nail? That nail is going to hurt the lady at some point. Be ready for it. And then I'm like, all right, here it goes. And then when she goes down, and as soon as she's like escaping the monster, going downstairs, like, nail in 3, 2, 1. Already while she's having a baby, it's like, oh, and she stepped there. She goes. She's on the nail. You know, like that's my anticipation. But I know for you two, it was like it actually was giving you anxiety of like, when is she going to step on the nail? For me, it was like, when is she going to... It was a difference of being like, oh my gosh, the nail, when she's going to step on the nail. And then being like, okay, the nail's still going to be there. When's she going to step on the nail? Oh, she stepped on the nail.
I think that's why
I didn't get caught up in the suspense as much. And I told Josh and Phil that of like, that was a personal preference of I just personally didn't get into the suspense as much. And that definitely would take out of the experience.
I think it was hard too because I feel like the question, because I really like your idea of John Krasinski and the deaf girl because it gives you an interesting dynamic where she can't hear them coming, but John can.
Yeah.
And so then it's like he has to like be extra protective of her and like, what do you do? I feel like the difficult thing is like, what are they trying to do? And potentially I do think that they were trying to make the worst scenario possible, which is two parents with kids, one of them which is a baby, having to be in this horrific situation with these animals that literally any sound kills them. What's the worst thing that you could have?
Yeah, and which
is like little kids. Like that's literally the worst thing. And so
which I think is a complaint for me, and I heard from another reviewer too of like, this movie, it wasn't really them trying to survive the world. It was the creators putting them in the worst situation possible.
Right, but I mean, but that's their choice,
then that's the
and
point,
like that's
yeah.
the point. And
Yeah.
so if you're
What
if
would
you're
they
not
do in
if
that
that's not your
situation?
preference, like that's totally fine. But like you can't say, well, that's bad because I don't like what they're doing, because like that's what they're trying to do is create like in a weird way, like that's what like Friday the 13th is. It's like I'm gonna take this like guy who's just out for blood and like throw him in a college camp where a bunch of horny teenagers and like just let him run free. It's like it's literally the worst scenario possible. Like, are they trying to tell a deep story about horror and like death and stuff? Like, no, it's just like I want to see this guy kill people. Like that's their goal.
Yeah.
And so I don't like that. Other people love that. Same thing with Saw. It's like I don't like people just getting brutally murdered for the sake of it. I do think it's interesting, and this is why I really liked it. There aren't a lot of concept movies like that of like, what would happen if we literally made and if you think about it, the movie progresses with literally the worst things happening one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. And it's like, it's not getting better. It's like they're screwed. And I think that's literally what they were trying to do. And if you're not a fan of that, like that's totally cool. I think that's a taste thing too, because I know like you're a huge fan of The Shining, and so they're trying to do a very different thing. Like they're trying to tell a paranormal story about, you know, someone going crazy, and like are they, but are they not, and all this stuff.
There's a lot of discrepancy, and that is much more terrifying to me than just being like, survive this creature, and you know, and I think that's where and I'm not trying to devalue like your guys' experience, and I said that specifically, like I don't say it to be like you guys got you're a bunch of little babies, or a little baby with a baby pot, you know, like trying to.
I am a big baby, so I wasn't even going to go see this movie in the first place. So.
Big baby Phil's got his little bib on and his little diaper.
Anyway,
but yeah,
I would definitely recommend people go see it if you're a fan of it. If you're a fan of kind of like thriller, horror, scary stuff,
conceptual things.
your experience it will vary. Like I think that's just how the movie is made.
With how you're like how sensitive you are to horror in that sense too is really going to affect it.
And I think how analytic too. I think like it's one of those movies if you overanalyze it, it does kind of fall apart. But I think it's like, but then like, are they trying to do that on purpose?
That was the problem that was happening. Was that sorry, we're going over time. We really need to talk about.
We
should shift.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is the last point. This will be the ending point. Oh frick! Now I forgot my ending point. What would you just say? What did you just say about
overanalyzing?
Yes. So if you go into the movie like me, where you're not getting caught in the suspense and the thrill, you're going to overanalyze the situations and then thus not enjoy it as much. But if you go in and you are immediately caught in the suspense and the thrill of it, you're not going to be thinking about it because you're running on adrenaline. Hence, you'll enjoy the movie more. So I think that's like what you should think about before you go in of like, okay, am I not easily going to get scared? Then I probably won't like this movie. Or like, oh, do I just get in the thrill no matter what it is? Then this will be a good movie for me. So yeah, still check it out. I still enjoyed it. It just wasn't the suspenseful thrill ride that I was seeking. So, all right, now we're shifting.
The big freaking moment. freaking Infinity Wars, dog.
Freaking Infinity War.
That was a movie.
It was a movie.
That was something we sat in the chair and watched. The one thing running through my mind was I do not want. It was like
I don't
how
want to leave.
how long was it? I didn't even realize how long.
2.5 hours.
It was like
was
it felt longer than that because we got in at
It did not.
3:30.
That was my thing. Is
you're right. It was like 6, wasn't it, when we got out?
Yeah, it was 2.5 because it was like 3:45 by the time it actually started. Because I remember Evan saying,
Sure.
like, it's 3:45. The commercial's going on forever.
Yeah, and then ended at 6:30.
Yeah.
Which is funny that you say that. Like it felt long. It did not feel long to me.
Oh, I didn't
was-
think it felt long. It was more just like it felt long in terms of like they just fit so much in,
Yeah.
and it felt
What I was surprised by is that
Oh.
the reason why it was so good. I will say this we'll clarify in the description that this first little spiel we'll give is non-spoiler. We're sharing just the general feel and flow of the movie and why we liked it and why we're praising it. Also, we're Marvel fanboys, so we're going to like it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have spoiler talk after so that, this gives good sense for people that haven't seen it to be like, all right, I need to go watch this now. Or, for people that have seen it to hear our thoughts and opinions. So
thoughts and opinions.
So what I was going to say real quick is that the flow of the movie compared to every other Marvel movie, well, that's not true. For me, Guardians of the Galaxy is like the pinnacle Marvel movie in my opinion, and I know that might be controversial, but Guardians of the Galaxy is so well paced and is such a standalone movie that it just trumps other ones in my opinion. For this one, in the context of the Marvel universe and everything that we've experienced, so us as Marvel fans have watched all the movies, so like getting to this point was like what we've been waiting for. Like ever since the first Avengers, when they like showed Thanos at the end, it was like, frick, who the frick is that? Who's who's Grimace?
Who's this Grimace looking fool?
Who's this Grimace looking character? Was this idea of like that's ow.
So excited.
I've got I love the Marvel movies. Oh, Thanos, the Dark Overlord. Shut up. Sorry, jeez. It's because I didn't drink water today, or I'm just pubescent. Both, yeah. The flow of the movie, and someone prefaced this to me before seeing it without spoilers, and I say this for anyone else listening too. There are a lot of characters that they show in this movie, but it's paced so well that it never feels like someone's out of place, or it feels like, oh, they were just trying to shoehorn this person in for the sake of having them in. Because with Civil War, I felt like Ant-Man was that way. Ant-Man short, like he fit in well and like had fun in the fight, but at the same time, like it was literally like 2 minutes before the fight that he's like, "Hey, I'm Ant-Man." then they started the fight with him, which I was like, okay.
Well, I think in Civil War too, like it was a dope movie, but I think it felt shallow because they just like didn't have enough heroes yet.
They have to
And
fight because that's what Civil War in the Marvel.
Yeah, and like when you read the
ethos
comics,
is.
like, and you get to the point where they're actually fighting, it's like a 2-page spread with like hundreds of heroes just like battling each other. Whereas in this, it's like
It was like a street
I
fight.
audibly laughed when I watched that movie in theaters because I was like, it was exactly what I was picturing, like 5 people on each side just running towards each other. Like this is a war.
Yeah, it was like a superhero street fight over like.
And like the movie was good, but
definitely.
it just felt weird when they finally pitted
in the
them
context
together.
of like what how the scale should have been. It should
Yeah.
have been much bigger.
Yeah,
And
with this one, like it was such a large scale movie, but it almost never felt like that in any one moment because of the way they orchestrated everything
Exactly.
so well.
Each of the storylines that they go into for the separate, like, because it's split off, and kind of like how the other Avengers movies were, of like, it's sort of split off at first, but then coming together, whatever. Semi spoiler, but not really, because basically you get as many people as possible. I won't say who, or won't say what, but
At least right now.
at least for right now.
Yeah.
But all the heroes that come in just play a great part. The fights are amazing.
Those fight scenes, some
the
of those fight
fights-
scenes, like especially
so
the
good.
the part right at the beginning was
The opening
intense.
scene is so.
They like just set the stage so well. In that
Yeah, we'll
first
get
scene.
into this
we'll get
specific.
into it.
Sorry, I don't.
But
wanna,
like the fighting in general in that
Yeah.
movie, I was
Let
just
him
like
have his
in
fun.
awe the whole time.
Yeah, I don't mean to be like. It's more so.
We're trying to get through the top level so we can just go. Phew!
Yeah, dive right in. Because I would say out of all the Avengers movies, this one, I think for the other 2 Avengers movies, I can specifically remember there being some semi-slow parts. Like in the first one when they were first introducing Hawkeye and the Tesseract, that felt a little like, all right, I just want to see everyone come together. Like, I remember when they got to like Captain America and they were introducing him and stuff. That was really good. And Age of Ultron, I'm a little less familiar with because I only watched that once. But I think when they were doing like Scarlet Witch and introducing them, there was some slowness to that. It felt like, but this one, the beauty of it was that everyone had been introduced already. Everyone had context. Everyone had the storyline, so they just jump right in and get into it. Recommendation: watch Thor Ragnarok before watching this movie.
Yeah.
Out of all, because like I know there are some people that I've talked to, and they were like, "Oh, which one should I watch?" I mean, if you could watch the whole cinematic universe, if you got the time,
I
you
feel
should.
like you need to at least watch the Avengers films.
Yeah.
Civil War probably, and Thor Ragnarok for sure.
Thor, the reason
and
why
Guardians, at least Guardians 2.
the reason why Thor Ragnarok, without spoilers, basically every Marvel movie has like an ending scene that plays into, you know, the next movie or whatever that they're going to release. The final cutscene of Thor Ragnarok after the credits plays right into the beginning of Infinity War. So if you have that context, check it out. I could. The more nitty gritty stuff is the stuff that really shines in the movie. I'd say the narrative and just how it's paced was just exceeded any other Marvel movie. And the Thanos, best Marvel villain in the cinematic universe.
I was
hands
astounded
down.
by how well written he was.
Yeah. So I'll pass it over to Philly.
I mean,
B.
I think we pretty much agree. It just the way they navigated the characters was spectacular.
Yeah.
And Glow actually had a really, really interesting point that I hadn't thought about that I'll bring up in the details because I don't want to spoil anything. But just they balanced it so well, and there it never felt like there was part of me that was not like worried because I trust what Marvel's done this.
I was
entire
definitely
time.
worried of like
But
having all these heroes and stuff.
There's that vibe of like I've seen Justice League, and I was like, I've seen what happens when you just say, "Well, I'm Aquaman and I'm gritty. Oh, I need to fight. Here I come." You're like, what? Like, what is this? This is so dumb. Or like, Steppenwolf is like the main villain in Justice League. Like, he just pops in and pops out, and it's like, oh, he's super powerful, blah, and he's just wreaking havoc. But it's like, well, you're the villain, so like you kind of have to, I guess. But this movie was just, it didn't suffer. It didn't suffer from setup. Like, I think that was the thing.
Yeah, they didn't
like
have to set up
said,
anything
Z,
really.
But the
They
warning
have-
is you should have context to the Marvel universe and what's happened because
Well, that's the reason that they don't.
Yeah,
set
right,
up, yeah.
exactly.
because there are some stuff that might like fly over your head, and I won't say
But
what
that's
now.
But I think that's the key
yeah.
is this movie will have the greatest payoff if you have kept up. Or
Well, that's
the most
this
part
is
kept
this
up.
is like a Marvel Cinematic Universe fans like dream movie basically.
because
Like,
Avengers and Avengers 2
yeah.
were almost like I think almost those were more universal
Yeah,
in
those
terms
were
of like,
just kind
especially
of
the
like
first
good
Avengers.
films,
Yeah,
like,
those were just like good films.
Let's
And,
appeal to families. And,
yeah,
yeah.
but like this one was like this is basically Marvel being like, all right, you wanted
you
this, here we
stuck with
go.
us,
You've been with us
here
for
it
10
is.
years. Here's your
Here it
freaking
is.
cake, and you can eat it too.
Oh, by the way, here's another cake, and it's
Yeah.
coming next year.
Yeah.
Like, oh
Oh,
gosh.
oh, I was gonna ask that. Is it
Yo.
spoiler to like recommend someone like to preface that there's gonna be another movie, a second?
Oh,
one?
no, no,
it's
no.
our
It's
the movie.
They literally
announced,
this movie was literally going to be called
Infinity War Part 1,
Part 1,
and then next year is
and then it was
Infinity
going
War
to be
Part
Part
2.
2.
But now
they
they
changed.
changed it. Yeah.
Well, I thought it was going to be something like I thought it was going to be Infinity Gauntlet Part 1, and then it was going to be Infinity Gauntlet Part 2.
No, I think it was still Infinity War.
I don't think it was because I know
Really?
they specifically changed the name so that there wouldn't be the Part 1, Part 2 in it because people got really ticked about that idea of like,
Maybe.
are you
Well, I
like,
think-
oh, you're splitting it to make more money.
I think the impetus was behind it was because the Infinity War is specifically like the plot of this movie. I don't want to explain it until we get to the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
But like they were gonna originally do it as the whole two-parter, but now the second one is a completely distinct movie that's like tied in with the plot of this one, but
Right.
it's gonna go a different direction.
Right.
Whereas before it was the whole Infinity War was the two movies. So
Yeah. And yeah, we could go on and on about. I think the problem that we're having personally is that like the surface level will just be gliding on, but it like the real deep stuff of why we
Yeah.
love the movie comes out of spoiler territory. So, but I mean, if you're a Marvel fan, you've probably been waiting for this forever. So, like
I think
we have,
I think the important thing is like if you are a Marvel Cinematic Universe fan,
This is
your
Yeah.
movie. Like, and if you're fatigued by the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then this is not your movie. Like,
Yeah.
you will
that
still
is
be
very true.
fatigued, but that's your fault.
if you're not if you're not a superhero movie fan, then you're not gonna. And like
You won't understand what's going on.
I
Like,
hope there's not people being like, this movie sucked. There was so much confusion, blah blah blah. And then if you ask like, well, do you like superhero movies? No, I'm not really. Okay, well then you have
Just like stop.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
just
Stop right
you're
there.
done.
I get it.
because you're immediately not gonna like. That
Right.
was Yeah, I could go into another example of like directors and stuff. There was like a guy I watched who didn't like Isle of Dogs versus another dude I watched who loved Isle of Dogs, that we've talked about before on the show. And the guy who didn't like Isle of Dogs says he hates Wes Anderson's dialogue and direction and way he does humor.
Sure, like, so why did you?
So it's
watch
like
this
and
movie?
it's like well
Yeah.
yeah, and that's actually it was good because they do a podcast together, and the dude that liked the movie confronted him was like, well, no, but if you already don't like it, then it's a personal preference. He's like, yeah, but there is this, and he's like, no, that's also personal preference.
right,
Like,
exactly.
he basically he was good at picking out the parts and being like, your qualms with it are much more against the director and the way the movie went than it was
It's actual quality.
its actual quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think with this one too, like I've talked to a bunch of people now who are like, I'm just like super hyped all the time. Like, oh dude, I'm going to see Infinity War this weekend. I'm going to see like Ant-Man this summer, and like I'm seeing Deadpool, and people are just like, oh, I'm burnt out from like Marvel movies. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is the age of the superhero, man. Like, we're getting, and it's like even superhero fans are burnt out. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
How could you possibly be burnt out? Like,
I think
we're just on like we're not even to the
honestly-
top yet.
I know, right?
Yeah, I honestly think it's because I know for me, I didn't really get into no, I've been into superheroes for a long time. That's not true. I honestly think it's because the community for like superhero, let's say comic fans specifically, has been such a niche community, and for it to blow up so mainstream in such a short amount of time, I think for them is like, oh, hold on, this is it's almost like if some people that were like slowly jogging down the path are like the casual fans, but then like pick up the pace as they start experiencing more and more
there's, like,
Marvel.
a mob behind them.
Yeah,
like, running in the same
whereas like
direction.
these other guys have been like running since the 1990s or whenever they first started reading comics. So like they're already being like, oh, I can't go. And then they like look right next to him. The casual fans like, yo, dude, the new Infinity War. And then sprints past them.
I think in a weird way though, I think it is partially that. I think it, and I want to just dive into like the actual movie itself. So if you're burnt out, you're burnt out. Like we're not gonna change that.
Still see the movie,
Yeah.
but don't complain to me that you didn't.
Yeah,
like
you
it
didn't
because
like
you're
it,
burnt out.
yeah.
Like that's your impetus.
I think the reason I personally am not burnt out is because all the movies progressively, as I've watched them critically, have just gotten exponentially better after each one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Every single one has gotten better. And if you think they haven't, like you probably skipped a couple and then
Yeah.
jumped like
Looking at like my
the
best
first
example
like
is
Thor 1 to Ragnarok
Awful.
is astounding.
yeah.
It's
The first Thor
mind-blowing.
was, I remember watching it at our grandma's house. So boring, super slow moments. Thor is just not really a character. Just he's like what's this thing over here? Loki, But
Give
then,
me more food, maiden. It's
Yeah.
like that kind of
but
thing.
then like transition into Ragnarok where like he does. I think they gave him a little more comedic tone just for the sake of that. But all right, do you know what spoiler territory?
We're going into spoilers. Hang on. All right. This is going to be in the description. From here on out, hardcore Marvel Avengers Infinity War spoilers.
and the rest
like-
of the cinematic
Just
universe.
like, and the rest of the
basically.
cinematic
do
universe.
not listen.
Do not listen. If you do not want to hear, if you have any buy into it and you are waiting, just pause the episode and come back in a week after you've seen the movie. Or better
Go see
yet,
it today.
go see
as soon
it.
as you listen to it,
Just
go see it.
Pause
Yep.
it and go see it and
Yep.
come back.
Buy your
anyway,
tickets now.
spoilers are commencing in 3, 2, 1.
Action. So what I was going to go into is that Thor in the cinematic universe was always kind of the more boring one out of the main four. Like Tony was always snarky Stark. Snarky. Captain America was always my favorite because he had this interesting conflict of balancing honor and like his countrymen versus like the new way things are being done. That was always
being
interesting.
a
to me.
vigilante, basically.
Yeah, being a vigilante. And then Hulk being Hulk, just like the battle inside of him is as a
He's
hero.
a fascinating character in this movie.
Yeah, he was too. Thor specifically, though. Thor had such great characterization because I think he went through the most out of all the main four. I think, and I'm guessing it's because they're giving the time. It was interesting because I think they balanced it out half and half. So looking at the main four, so that's Thor, Hulk, Captain America, and
Iron Man.
Iron Man. Iron Man and Hulk had a lot of characterization in this, or Iron Man and Thor had a lot of characterization in this movie. Thor had some of the best scenes. One of my favorites personally is there's a part in the movie where Thor needs a new hammer, and he's going to this like dying star, this forge in space, and it's him, Rocket, and Groot, and like Rocket's kind of just like probing and wanting to know where he's from and blah blah blah, but like Thor is mulling over and like mourning over this fact of like Loki dies like super early on in the film.
Like 5 minutes.
First 5 minutes, and you're like, holy crap, they went there. This is happening.
Yeah, they just like pounded the hopelessness in like immediately.
Yeah, immediately. Like, and Thanos literally just like destroys the Hulk.
Beats
and
the snot out of Hulk, kills a god. Like, all right,
you're
guess
like,
we're done.
Okay, and you're like, all right, he is a bad dude. But Thor goes through so much growth in the movie in terms of like and like he has good reason because Thanos killed his brother, and he emphasizes, and like it's cool because he does try to keep this cool head, but like when he is talking with Rocket, he is like, are you sure you're up for doing this? Are you sure you want to do this? And he was like, he basically said like, no, all the rage, all the pain I feel for this,
I've lost everything.
I've lost everything. So like I have, even now, I've lost my eye, I've lost my brother, I lost my dad, I lost my sister. I have nothing more to lose. And that's,
he looked like he was about to cry in that
Yeah,
scene
he
too. I
was.
was like,
Like,
dang, this is
he was like on the verge of tears.
God, and he's like about to.
And that's what he
cry.
says, like 1,500 years, I've never lost so much. And he's like, now I have nothing more to lose. And it's true. Because you look at the whole context of even like the boring Thor movies. Now, like kind of lost his girlfriend in terms of just not being with her anymore. Like,
which is like cheesy, but at the same time, there's a strange payoff in that moment that he's having to go. I think this was the thing that this is why
he's
this
a dude
movie
who
was
started off
amazing.
as such a snarky, like he was probably the
old
most
age douche bag who's just like,
well, like
oh,
that's
too good.
That's
for
how they were
everything.
portraying him in the first Thor movie. But then he's progressed so much in every single movie he's appeared to reach this pinnacle moment of like you reflect with him and you're like, oh my gosh, he has lost everything. Dang, huh?
Mm-hmm.
and you're really stewing on that, and that was brilliant.
And I think to build on that too, this was the thing that I think just spoke volumes to me and why there was so much payoff in this movie. It's like, yes, we're getting to see the ultimate battle of like all these heroes in one movie. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm super stoked by that. But I was blown away by the payoff of like each character in each movie has been like progressively getting more character development in each movie, and it only grows as it gets to this one. So you have like Tony Stark, who in the very first Iron Man is like, oh, he's like, snarky, he's just
Starky.
doing what he wants, flying to the beat of his own drum,
rich dude, basically.
right? And then you have like, and then you've got like the other movies in the Avengers, and he's kind of more in it. In Age of Ultron, he's like trying to help and fight, and then Civil War is like the moment where he's like, this is wrong. Like he has like that definitive,
He realizes
this is
that
a bad
this is
thing
not
that
what we should be doing.
We should not, like, we need to be controlled and we need to be reined in. And he's I think in that moment recircling back through all the movies to Infinity War. In that moment, I think it was, oh gosh, I'm just like losing my mind. It was just so cool. In that moment, we're reading it as like, well, he's just like siding with the government because like, yeah, and he's like feeling this personal pain of like,
I'm killing
all this
people,
loss and like,
yeah.
oh, like we need to avoid doing that. He was dodging responsibility. Like for this guy who has been all these movies, he's like, he's struggled with that. He's the one responsible for all these weapons getting dealt to all these dangerous people and people dying and being blown up. Like his dad was the one who did that too, and people are getting his weapons, and like Stark Industries is funding these like terrorist groups and stuff like that. He's the one who's responsible for New York getting blown apart by all the heroes dodging and jumping through all this stuff. He's the one who had to watch the city get blown up and destroyed. And like this is eating at his conscience, all these movies. And then he gets the Civil War, and all it took is this one mom coming up and being like, you killed my son. It's your fault. And all of a sudden, it kicks off Civil War to be like, we need to be regulated. And all it is he doesn't want to take responsibility and control. And then you get into Infinity War, and he is literally faced with, I'm going to take on the responsibility of fighting the god of destruction in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's like,
well, it's because this is like, he sees it as the end all to all the stuff that's been on his mind and stuff. And the specific line that did it for me was when he's arguing with Doctor Strange on the ship, and Strange is like, you don't understand like basically the value, or how intense of a situation this is. Like, if he gets a hold of this gauntlet, like the whole universe is at stake, and like we could all die. And he's like, you don't think I don't get that? Like, I have been thinking, like, Thanos has been on my mind for 6 years, ever since, like, because he finds out early on that he led the attack on New York in the first Avengers movie. He was like, 6 years, like, Thanos has been on my mind. It's never gone away. It's never, and that shows that thing of like the stress of the scope of the situation that's always been over him has affected him more than anyone else.
Especially as the leader of the Avengers, basically, like, he is responsible for like everything.
Yep.
And it's like that the pinnacle of his characterization is like he has to take responsibility. Which you're absolutely right. Like he's the one who jumps on the wheel to go save Doctor Strange and the stone or whatever. And
right.
So
and then you juxtapose that with Spider-Man Home, and just to me, how much character development crosses between the movies, and how in watching this movie you can go back over all these movies and be like, it's crazy. It's like, obviously it's purposeful that they put Tom Holland or Spider-Man with Iron Man,
like
and
one of the
in the movie,
newbiest
right?
Avengers with,
but it's like
the leader of the
you're
Avengers.
coming from the context that he like was kind of a father figure for him in
He
Homecoming.
he has a close bond with,
right, and so then you have this thing where he's like still with him, and he's like, you're still this annoying runt, and I have to take responsibility for you because you're not old enough to handle it. And he's like, you didn't think this through, and he's like, I thought this through. And like that dynamic, and then to get to the end of the movie and that heart-wrenching moment when the heroes are starting to disappear, and he's like fading, he's like, I don't feel good, and then Tony to just be just like, no, and he like grabs him, he's like, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go, dude, Mr. Stark. And
all right, I need to say real quick, that part was getting me sick. Like, I was feeling sick to my stomach watching just all these people disappear and stuff. But that scene specifically, I was getting emotional. I was like, nope. When he was like, Mr. Stark, he's like, I don't feel good. He's like, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. I was like, nope. Don't do that. Nope. Like, yeah, but just like getting emotional. The magnitude of all the things. And like, that's just Tony Stark. Like, you have even Doctor Strange who has to deal with some of that stuff. You have like the Guardians of the Galaxy and the things that they're going through, and like all their emotion. Yep. Like to me, the brilliance of this movie wasn't even just that it's like, oh, they found out a way to cohesively bring all these heroes together and fight the big villain. It's that like you can look at every single character and be like, they are progressing even more as people in this movie. Yes. Like, as individuals, this isn't just about their powers and them being stronger and knowing how to fight better. Yeah. They're having to deal with, like, they've seen some crazy stuff. The only thing I will say, though, and this isn't, like, just to downplay the movie, some heroes got a little more of the spotlight than others. I would absolutely agree. Because I was, the funny thing is I went to the movie thinking Captain America was going to die, and he didn't, and he played a good role in, like, fighting with Wakanda, but what I saw was that even though Captain America's like Captain America, he didn't have too much contribution, and he didn't really have like a personal arc that he went through, which like I think they're gonna well, and I think that's a part of Captain America's character arc. Like, he's no longer on the forefront of the Avengers. Like, right. Well, and he's gone through so much too. That's like he kind of knows where he stands and where he's gonna go. Yeah, but at the same time, though, force now, and he's not like. Yeah, but at the same time, though, because there's a second movie, and this is what I was saying earlier, it seemed like the focus was more on Thor and Iron Man out of the main four, and Hulk didn't even show up in the movie except for the very beginning, and that's like an interesting arc with Bruce Banner, as short as it is like. He keeps trying to call out Hulk, and he's like, Hulk, come on. Like, we need, out of all the times to not show yourself, like when the world's about to die. But, he has that struggle. And then Captain America, there's a thing with Vision, I think, that showed a little bit of his insight. But those two didn't have as much of the light as Thor and Iron Man did. So I'm theorizing that once the second one comes out, those two will have more of the spotlight. Yeah, I agree. Same thing with, like, Black Panther, I think. Yeah, I was going to say Black Panther 2 didn't have much. Granted, his movie's really recent, so I think they, if they, looking at how Marvel has staggered the timeline, he just got a whole bunch of movie of like character and building and stuff like that, and things he's had to go through, and so then it'd almost be like a weird balance. That. Yeah. Whereas like if you think about it, Iron Man, it's been forever since his movie, and he's like popped up in Homecoming and other stuff like that, but then it's balancing Guardians as well, but anyway. What have you been thinking? We've been running. Sorry, so yeah. I don't know. I feel like you guys said most of it. I think I liked the Hulk tension at first. That was kind of like, it almost felt like a licensing cop out. Like they just can't show Hulk for some reason for like only 5 minutes of the movie. But I think I was reading online, and it's more of like, because they can't make a Hulk standalone movie anymore, they're almost like doing Hulk's story through
the background of other people's movies, because like you get the Thor where like he has been Hulk for 3 years or however long he's been gone, and now Hulk gets the snot beaten out of him after being like the champion for 3 years.
He's
and now
instinctively going to retreat into Bruce
and now Hulk's
not
basically
show
just like a
himself.
scared little kid, like, no, I'm not coming out.
Yeah.
I'm too afraid. And then Bruce is like screwed or whatever. And I thought that was interesting, and getting to see Bruce like catch
Banner
up with
now
old
is the
friends.
Bruce,
hero in a
Bruce
way.
Banner
And
being
Banner's
himself,
the hero, and he
Well,
got to
'cause,
like
yeah.
talk with people and talk to his friends again. He's like, hey, haven't seen you in a long time. I'm like, oh.
Because in Thor Ragnarok, you get the insight into like Bruce, like the distinction between Bruce and Hulk, and then how Bruce is like, and it's like it brings humor because Thor's like, you can bring him out, right? Like I need the Green Monster, and he's like, I really don't want to, like, okay, and that caused that tension in the movie and stuff. But then this one was interesting that you get, like you said, Bruce Banner's the hero in this one, not Hulk.
Yeah.
Which you would think in the other two movies, Hulk has always been the one they rely on. And like when stuff gets super serious, it's like, come on, Hulk, come on. And then he comes out and destroys stuff. But this is the first time where it's like Hulk didn't come when the
Well,
situation
and
was
the
dire.
reason is because in the opening of the film,
Gets
the number one
snot
lethal
beaten.
weapon of the Avengers gets pummeled. Like
Yeah.
literally, they're literally like, he gets one hit on Thanos, and like they're about to jump in, and the one dude's like, just let him have his fun. Like let him just decimate him.
Yeah, Thanos
Like,
just
like,
like,
oh.
boom, boom, boom.
Lifts him up and just tosses him. I'm like, oh no, the
It's like,
strongest Avenger just got ripped.
Yeah.
this is gonna be a ride.
But yeah, I feel like for me, the most interesting part for me was, I think, Thanos.
Yeah,
Was-
I was-
I think, like,
that made the movie.
This should be like our big point.
You
Yeah,
got
'cause
like
I was
all
feeling
of
the
the
same way.
cameos, and you finally got to see heroes come together, like the Guardians meeting Thor, and like Iron Man and Spider-Man being together more often, and Doctor Strange meeting Tony Stark, and like all these different things that we're like we've been waiting to see for the longest time. But like Thanos' characterization in this movie was just astounding. Like you said, I think he's the best villain so far.
Yeah.
Like he was like a genocidal maniac, but also somehow they humanized
so
him.
logical. Like,
Yeah, like,
that,
what he came across
it's like, that's not right, but it makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this is the reason why I loved him so much is he started off as like, I'm taking down everyone and getting the gauntlet together so I can destroy stuff, and it's like, all right, another like I think Ultron. It's like each villain took a bigger step. I think Loki was just like. Loki grew as a character over the movies, but in Avengers, he was kind of just the like, I'm going to destroy New York and cause havoc and then he was that villain. Ultron is much more like, humanity is at stake. I will just, like a blah, blah, blah. I'm an evil robot that humanity made to destroy stuff. So like he does that, but Thanos has this context of he at first comes across as that kind of villain because he needs to be portrayed as an ultimate threat. But what makes him so special compared to other villains is that, one, he's given much more screen time than the other villains were, and it wasn't when they portrayed him and when they gave him scenes, it wasn't just to show, look, this dude's powerful. Like one of my favorite scenes is when Phil sadly went to use the restroom. It was in Thanos' throne room, and Gamora, who is part of the Guardians of the Galaxy, is Thanos' daughter. That's established in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He like kidnaps Gamora and has her with him, and he's like trying to remind her of like the person he wanted her to be, and you're getting this little connection of like, oh, he actually has like a connection with with Gamora. It's not just this like how the other movies portrayed him was that he's like, my daughter, we shall rule the world together. It was this thing of
family business kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, like a family business thing. Yeah, like trying to get her back into the mindset that he wanted her to be in. Initially when he first like quote unquote adopted her. But then, she obviously denies that. And that whole scene, and I think all three of us agree, the scene where he needs to get the Soul Stone and makes the sacrifice with Gamora was like, that threw me off guard. I was not expecting that to happen.
Well, and I thought that was interesting.
As soon as he said, like, I need a sacrifice, I knew... Sorry to cut you off.
I think for me, like, I knew that that's what he was going to do, that he was going to kill Gamora, but it was interesting seeing Gamora's response to it, because in her mind, he doesn't love her. But in his mind, he really does truly love her. Otherwise, the sacrifice wouldn't have worked. So it's like this ironic thing where we know that Thanos is just going to chuck her in there.
And that's what it was, yeah. Because
but
when
like Gamora didn't, like, she's like, look at you, like you finally are at the top of the world. You almost have what you want, but the universe
you have
says
nothing,
no.
yeah.
You have nothing to love, nothing to sacrifice. And he's like,
and he turns and he's crying, and then
he's
Red
like
Skull,
tears and
who cameos out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But and then him being like, those tears aren't for him. and it's like,
And you're just like,
And I love her reaction.
"Oh."
Her reaction too of like she doesn't believe him either. She's like, no,
She, like, doesn't get
no,
it.
you
Yeah.
don't. But like he does. He totally does. And he is. There was never a moment where it's like it threw you off guard because you were like, nah, he didn't really show any sympathy or whatever. When he does first adopt her, like I think one of the really cool scenes is like he basically commits genocide on her people and stuff, and she hates him for that. But like when he's giving her the little pocket knife or whatever, she almost turns to look at everyone. He's like, no, and he like turns her head away from it. And like the classic villain thing would be like, look at your people, like watch them suffer, watch them die. But he like actually shielded her from the horror that he was committing.
But and it just perfectly aligns with who he is, because he is so like, he's not like, genocide for genocide's sake. He's like, look at what happened to my country. Like, look what happened to my world.
On Titan.
And on Titan. He's like, Titan used to be a paradise, but then people, it outgrew itself, and look what happened because they didn't do what I did. And now what I did, there's results, and it's good. But then it's like,
well, and he also said too, which is interesting, is he said like, I was considered insane. People called me insane. And like throughout the movie, if you notice, almost every single hero in some way says the same thing of you're insane, you're this monster, and
But I just like, narrative aside too, just the cinematography and like how the movie is crafted is just stunning. Like that scene with Gamora is like, first off, the framing on, like, they just linger on Thanos' face as she's telling all this stuff to him, and it's like, it's creating the context,
building up the emotion of
and so like Thanos is starting to tear up and cry, and then Gamora's like, you don't love anything, you big d-bag, like, sucker, this is what you get.
Not actually,
and he's like,
and you're just looking at Thanos the whole time.
as he's like crying, and he's like leaning in, and he's coming closer, and like Red Skull is just like, I know what's about to happen. And then, but then to cut from that, and then to like go to the shock on Gamora's face, and he doesn't like brutishly grab her, or he like grabs her by the wrist.
He's like,
and just starts like walking,
and
he's like, and he's like dragging her, and then to cut to slow mo, and she's like fighting because she's like, no, like, and the like just the agony of like, he's making the choice and he doesn't want to make it, and he's delusional and he's crazy and he's trying to kill everybody, but he's willing to kill his daughter. Like, what is happening? It was so good. Oh, dude, this movie.
I know that scene specifically just drove me nuts. The other one too that I would say just was like a pinnacle of like all the other movies, all the Avengers movies, where I think it's more all like Infinity War was like the other Avengers movies. It was bringing the characters together and like them having. But this one, what it did was that it made things personal for basically every character. There was some, and like more so than others, like I said, because like Captain America did much of the light. I was telling Josh and Phil, one of my favorite scenes was when they're trying to get the gauntlet off of Thanos, and they have this. That was one of the coolest parts, is when Doctor Strange is sitting there and he's like, I think our wills are stronger than, I think we can handle ourselves more than you can. He's like, we? And then everyone just comes in and is going nuts on him, and actually do almost beat him. But what stops it is Peter Quill or Star-Lord, like asking where, like he's in his face being classic Star-Lord, and he's like, no, like, where's Gamora? And then Mantis is like reading his mind. She's like, oh, there's like anguish, there's stuff, and Nebula's there, and is obviously like, she's already, and then like just the shot and the like, it's like slowly turning, and you can see like Chris Pratt did such an amazing job. Like he was getting upset, and like you could see him shaking and shivering, and on the context of everything before, of like Gamora saying like, if the time comes, you need to kill me before, because I know something that Thanos doesn't, that happening, and then having that be this point of like, he never actually wanted her to die, and that because he loves her. And so when he's just like building up that tension, and then Iron Man being like, no, Quill, like, if you know, we almost have him, and just freaking out, and it's warranted. It's not a thing of like, because the difference is, if there was no context to that, it would have just been like, dude, come on, like, really, you ruin basically the entire.
I'm doing this for love.
I loved her, you villain.
And I will destroy you.
And I will destroy you.
And it could have been that. It could have easily been that, but you have the context of not only the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, not only like the earlier scenes with him and Gamora, how much he cares for her, and to know that that dude just sacrificed his, like, just killed his love, and he doesn't even know how much that hurt Thanos. Even though he hears the anguish in his head, he just hears that he killed Gamora and lashes out and causes the whole conflict to break up, but it's warranted. It's not just this throw in of like, well, we got to have Quill ruin the whole situation for him, so let's have him like kill Gamora so that he gets mad and then ruins it. It's out of like both Peter Quill and Thanos mourning over Gamora, and then that being presented in that way.
I feel like for me the scene that got me the most and kind of like hammered home the Thanos story arc in this film was the scene with Vision.
Yes.
Where, Scarlet Witch
that
has
was
to
heavy.
kill Vision.
Oof.
Her like the love of her life, basically. This whole movie is like everybody has to kill the love of
Sacrificing
their life.
what they love.
Everyone had to die.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Except everyone tries to do the right thing and kill the love of their life, and then Thanos ends up taking it away from them, basically. But like, just that part where she kills him,
yup.
and she's like in anguish, and Thanos just walks up, reverses time with the freaking time.
It was
stone.
even better before. Sorry to.
No, it's all good.
But like even before that, when he looks at Scarlet Witch and he's like, "I know your
And he
pain,"
like gently puts his hand on her head, and he's just like, "I know what you feel."
and he
freaking
does.
giant hand. He's just like, I'm like, what the heck? But yeah, so and then he just goes over to Vision and like rewinds time and just and the color draining out of his body, and I was like, come on, man.
It was,
and
it's
all
so
of the
good.
heroes, like the Thor thing was dope at the end
when he
there,
just
and then-
flies in with that. Yep.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Thor's back, baby.
Yeah, that's what I was saying is such a great portrayal of power and stuff, because I think portraying a great, powerful villain is very, very, very difficult. Portraying an all power, like you can, I'd go into multiple examples of stuff, but that's going to take too much time. But
Well, I think Thanos' strength as a villain wasn't his power necessarily, because
it was how he was
we knew how
characterized.
powerful he was,
Right.
But it was because he was so human, almost like
Even though he had this insane goal of basically wiping out half of.
But
existence.
even his goal was grounded in a human desire to bring like balance to the world. I mean, it's misguided, but it like that desire
It
to
makes
like
sense.
wipe out half of the world is rooted in like human emotion of wanting balance, of wanting people to like have enough to eat and enough things, and everybody can relate to that. So we're all like, frick, like your goals are good, but your means to the end are like not good. And,
Right.
And so like by the end of the movie, like Thanos' evilness is like twice as much as it would be if he was just like a Steppenwolf character, where like the only reason he's strong is just because he's really strong and he's a
his
god.
only reason to kill is just because that's what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
There's like and that the depth of his goal isn't, well, I'm just gonna wipe out half of like this group or that group, or like, well, Earth, you happen to be the half that needs to go. It's like it's just chance. Like his whole thing, like when he does the snap, it's like
That-
it's literally chance. He doesn't say, all these people on this part of the world in this universe, they are all going to disappear, and you are going to be the only ones who are left. It's like it like happens.
It
And
just-
then,
that's
and then
what I
you're like
loved.
looking, and everyone's like, "What happened?"
Yeah, because you can't have that kind of moment be too dramatic, because well, you can have it, but what I loved about that moment specifically is throughout the entire movie they're saying like, well, if he gets this, he's going to destroy everything. If he gets this, he's going to destroy everything. In every movie, that's always the case. Oh, well, if this villain gets the superpower, if he gets this thing, we're all going to die. In this thing, what made that so good is that it wasn't this thing of like, boom, boom, baby,
Yeah,
and
right.
everyone dying. It was literally Thor's like almost killed Thanos, and he's like, you should have aimed for the head. Nope, and then snap, and then it's done, and then you just slowly start seeing people fade away. It's brilliant because you understand that like, oh my gosh, they were right. He
It was literally a snap of the finger.
he literally snapped his finger and destroyed half the universe.
Well, and I think that was a strength too, is usually the bad guy never gets the chance to enact his plan, or at least it's usually reversed like immediately. Like the Assassin's Creed, for example, like they get
Right.
the orb, it's like about to go, and I'm like, oh man, they got the thing, and then he just shanks him. I'm like, what the heck? I want to see what
And he
happens
steals-
when
yeah,
people
yeah.
lose their free will.
Right.
But in this one, like he just does it, and that, for a moment there, even for me, I'm like, did it
Like, what
work?
happened?
Or and
Well,
then
that's- yeah.
have people just start fading away. I'm like, oh no, like he just committed genocide. Like
Right.
and I'm wearing a freaking shirt with his face on it.
Yeah, you like look down at your shirt.
Yeah. Right after the movie ended, I like walked out, and one of the cleaning guys was standing there. He's like, "He's got the right shirt."
You're like,
I'm like, technically, he's the guy's side to be on.
right.
You're like, no, I don't have the right shirt.
Yeah, because I think, like you were saying, Phil, and you alluded to it as well, Z, that it could be so, like, granted, Marvel has set it up so that this wouldn't happen, but I see like what DC has done, and I see like what other movies that are very centered around good versus evil, and there's a final battle, all in the same movie. Usually it's like an hour and a half or 2.5 hour movie, and there's like, the final clash. The guy has the Doomsday switch, and it like, I didn't put the batteries in. Like, it's that kind of moment. Or like, easily too.
Or the bad guy talks for like 30 minutes. And
right.
Like somebody comes around and
starts
slices
monologuing.
his throat or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like,
there was no monologue in this.
Right.
He's just like.
Yeah. Or, when he says to Doctor Strange, he's like, oh, you could have used the fake. And then it's like, Doctor Strange turning to the camera like, wink. And then when he snaps his finger and he's like, what? What is this witchery? But it's like they had the gonads to set up all these movies for 10 years of movies to have him win.
For a villain to come out and know, and like I think that's a risky move.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
To put all of that effort into making this one villain be the ultimate victor, and I think that's we should share the story real quick. So our mom texted us wanting to know how we thought of the film because she loved it. Our mom was like, I called her the other day after we watched it, and she was like, yeah, I've been looking up these theories and stuff, seeing like,
she's not
Thanos
this kind of person at all.
No,
she's
not
not a pop culture person.
But she's been like,
geeked.
she's geeking out
so
over
geeked.
it.
It's
and,
awesome.
But our dad, she said, oh, your dad was so mad at that movie. We were like, what? Like, did he not? She was like, no, it was just the ending. And we were like, the ending was good. Like, we were all over it. But what I found out is I called him, and apparently what happened was he didn't know there was going to be a second movie. And he thought this was like the last. He was like, "This is how you're gonna end your franchise." And he was like, that was his word verbatim." And
We're halfway done, baby.
Yeah.
He did his classic like, "What? Like, what? You're gonna kill?" And he was like, "Come on!" Like that's he said on the phone. He was like, and then like Black Panther was disappearing, and then Spider-Man. I was, come on. But then I was like, Dad, there's gonna be another movie. He was like, all right, I feel but like he was good about being like. Well, I still hated it. He was good about realizing, like, he admitted and he said he would have enjoyed the movie much more if he knew there was going to be another movie. And that's why I might message my friend and say, like, this isn't spoiler. This is just for warning. There will be a second movie. And I think, because at first I was debating on doing that of like, oh, is that like spoiling anything? But they've already said they're going to make.
It's common knowledge, yeah, that this was. Because I looked up and you were right, Phil, it was originally Infinity War Part 1. So originally this was going to be called Infinity War Part 1. But then there was some pushback because I think that was when there was like Hunger Games something Part 1.
Well, that
and
and
was like,
they actually changed it a little bit in the sense that like it was literally just going to be one long movie in 2 parts, but they shifted the directing a little bit, and now the second movie is like a sequel to it, but it's a distinct film in its own right. So I'm guessing they'll resolve the Thanos part pretty quick and then like shift into like how are we instituting phase 4 whatever of
like
the Marvel
universe. Yeah.
So it's almost like an ending to this saga, but also a beginning of the next saga. So I think they wanted to make it distinct. Like this is not part 2 of this movie. It's also its own movie.
Well, then if anything, this will probably stay my favorite if that's the direction, because this one just had such a whole. I mean, like I'd probably just combine the two and say like Infinity War is my favorite Marvel film, just to like say that for the sake of how much happened. But I think if that's the direction it's going, that's great. Like I'm happy they're doing that, because there should be some grounding of like this is where the characters are going to be now, because you can't just like almost be like, yay, we beat Thanos, yay, and then that's it. That would be almost as upsetting as Dad thinking that was the end of the movie and he was like the Thanos winning, and he was like, yeah, and he got his sunrise, he got what he wanted, like
he got his sunrise.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So
freaking
that was
Grimace looking fool.
Grimace, still one of the. And it was fun. It's funny hearing the pop culture references.
I feel like they were almost going a little Deadpool with some of the pop culture references.
It was great.
Yeah.
All right, Squidward, get out of here.
It's funny listening because like there were certain people that laughed at certain parts. Like when the guy said like "butt out Squidward," like I heard all the kids like "ha ha," he called him Squid. But then when he called, like I heard like little kid laughter. But then when he said like when he told the dude, he was like, "All right, Grimace." When he's talking to Thanos, there was like older people. Like the older people started laughing. Like we were laughing at that.
Yeah.
And it was just funny that was like a little tie-in to like, see, all ages can enjoy this movie.
One of my favorite parts of the comedy bits was one. There's both of them involve Drax. The first one was when he's they like fly in. He's like, "Where's Gamora?" And then like Tony Stark's like, "Who's Gamora?" And then Drax is on the ground,
he's like, no, he's
Quill is like, "Where's Gamora?" And then
The
Tony's
Doctor
like,
Strange, yeah.
"Who's Gamora?" And then
Drax is like, "I'll do you
one
better."
better.
Why is
Gamora? Why is Gamora?
That was
Like,
great.
what? And then the second one is when Gamora and Quill early on are having this like touching moment. Like really, he's like
serious
they're like-
vital scene.
and he's like,
How long have you been
"Drax,
standing
how
there?
long have you been standing there?" An hour.
I've mastered the art of being completely still and invisible.
Watch
just
my movements.
slowly-
And then he's like,
We can still see you, Drax.
"No, you can't."
Look how subtle. Look how subtle my house.
subtle
Hi,
my
Drax. Damn.
Just wait.
He just walks away.
Oh, it was so good.
Drax, he had some good comedic
He's
moments
a great-
in that film.
Yeah. And I think what I loved, as with every Marvel movie, as much as like, I think there are some people that argue like, oh, there's like too much humor in it stuff.
I think it's
Like
perfect.
this movie, it's
yeah.
always a perfect balance. Because like, if this movie was all seriousness, it
It'd
would.
be
I
GC.
think
It'd be
it
a
would have
DC
been.
film,
It'd be a
yeah.
DC film, yeah. But like, I think it was just the balance of the thing. Like, these characters have been established as like this is their way of humor and joke. It's not like, well, let's make Drax the funny character in this one. Like, that's Drax. Drax was established in the first Guardians of the Galaxy as being like the so serious, and he thinks everything he does is perfect. So it's like,
Yeah, it's like not. He's not even trying to be
be.
funny. He's just like so
That's
frank.
who he is.
Like,
Yeah,
in how,
that's
what
who
he
he
says.
is.
He's, I'll
Or he's
do you
like-
one better. Why?
Or what? Who was the comment? Who was? Or I think it was Rocket who was like, "Quill, you're one sandwich
You're
away
one-
from being fat." And then Drax is like, "You have put on weight, Quill."
and then and he points. He's like, where have I put on weight? And he kind of like points. He's like,
points at his
and
chin,
he
he
points at
points
his cheek,
chin,
and then he
he's
like
like,
points at his stomach. He's like, Ugh.
Yeah, it is so. And there's like, oh, his rippling arms. Let's not talk to the muscle man.
Stop. Yeah, mom.
Yeah.
Mom said that was her like the part she left to heart. She's like, it's like, okay, we don't know who this guy is. It's when they like break
Thor
Thor
runs
onto their
it,
ship
yeah.
and stuff, and like he's still unconscious, and he's like, all right, let's not make judgments. We don't know who this is. And Gamora's like she's like, let's not stop massaging his muscles.
When,
Why are you massaging
when
his
he's like,
muscles?
"I'm the captain of this ship." He's like, "Are you mocking me?" He's like, "Are you mocking me?" You're,
Quill, you just lowered your voice. This is my normal voice.
this is my normal voice.
so great. Did he grow that mustache, Chris Pratt? Did he have that in the second Guardians?
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
That all right.
For some
That
reason, I
was
don't
another
remember his
fun line too.
stash.
Is when he was like Thor and Captain America's like, Thor, good to see you. He's like, I see you got the haircut. He's like, I see you have my beard. He's like, yeah. Just nice
see you
little,
copied my
the
beard.
little things like that. You love these characters so much that every little interaction just is so authentic and fun. I think that's what makes
Yeah.
those scenes so nice. Is like in Justice League, if I went and go see like, oh, Flash is joking with Superman, it's like, I don't really know these guys. It's not really that like, it's not special to me. But when like it was that brief moment of Thor and Captain America seeing each other
in the
after
midst
so
of
long.
this battlefield, and he's like, "Thor, nice haircut." He's like, "Cap, beard," and it's like, "That's it."
Yeah.
They fly off and like
Because they know the situation.
everybody.
Oh,
It's great.
what time are we at?
We're at 2 hours. So this is a
Probably
good
wrap
one.
it up.
Yeah.
I mean, we got out basically everything.
That was
We could
basically
go into the real nitty gritty, but those are the big things I would say. So Thanos' characterization was a huge thing. Each characterization of everyone and just how well they were integrated in compared to every other Marvel movie, especially Avengers movie. This is definitely the best Avengers movie.
Oh, hands down.
Hands down. If you liked because I know I have some friends who are like, I'm not really a fan of the Marvel movies, but I love Avengers. It's like, dude, this is like,
Yeah, the seminal Avengers film.
Yeah, but I think so much of it is predicated on having invested in the universe and the characters and their growth as people. And I think if
this film, if you see it without a lot of that, this film could get you pumped for that.
it
'Cause
could,
Evan's probably seen like Ant-Man, the Guardians films, and that's about it, I think. And
yeah,
Black Panther.
Glow had missed a bunch of them
Yeah,
too.
so Evan hasn't seen any of the Captain America, any of the Iron Man, like any of the like establishing
yeah.
films, but like we were talking about it all the way home, and like she was excited about it, and we were like looking stuff online and stuff, and so and she's like asking me all these questions, like, well, what was this, and how does this tie into this, and I was like explaining it all. So I think even if you aren't, this is a good jumping in point to like see how it all ties up.
maybe not a jumping in point.
Well, not a jumping in point, but like if you've gotten off track for a while and you're like, I don't want to watch all the films to get caught up, like I think you should still give this one a shot, and
Yeah.
then it maybe will reinvigorate your desire to like learn more about.
Because then you could
the
just
universe.
watch, like, this one will be in theaters forever probably, so you could just like go
Yeah.
watch. You could
Because
go
Black
watch the
Panther's
movies
been
that
in
come
for
out.
2 months now.
I know, which I'm
so-
mad about because I was like, oh, I didn't get to see Black Panther before this one.
Still
but
can.
I still can, yeah. That'll time me
We
over.
we could watch it in May when we come down for your B day.
That would be dope.
That 21st birthday.
I mean, I'm excited to see, seeing Wakanda. Like, I never got to see Wakanda and the People. I really, really liked it.
It's
from just
cool.
what I
It's
saw.
cool.
It's a great film.
And it's Kendrick did the album
soundtrack.
the soundtrack.
Well, he didn't do
and
like the
stuff.
orchestral stuff, but he did like
Right.
the
Yeah.
No, and it's a good soundtrack.
It's really good, and I really like T'Challa's character, and I like what was the thing? I can't remember her name, but she's like the lead general of like the fighters and
like the bald women.
yeah. And T'Challa and her are talking, and he's like I'm opening up the doors to our country and stuff like that. She's like, I thought it would be different. He's like, what did you expect? She's like, I don't know, this, a Starbucks.
Starbucks.
And a Starbucks. Or she was like, the Olympics, Starbucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
Why was she? That was a great line too. Is when Scarlet Witch came in and just like wrecked everything. She was like, "Why was she up there?"
That was great. It was such a good movie.
So many good moments.
All in all, universally between the three of us, it was fan-freaking-tastic.
Yes,
It was like
this is
exactly
this was a
what I
highlight,
expected and more.
Yep.
Like
Same
I
here.
couldn't have asked for anything better than this.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Lived up to all the hype.
and now I'm gonna be waiting
Dying.
in anticipation
Yep.
till May.
Gonna just watch all the other Marvel
Yep.
movies before.
At least we get like Ant-Man and Deadpool and
Is there
Captain
any-
Marvel next year in March.
Oh, that's right. So that'll probably come out before this one,
Yeah.
won't it? Yeah,
It
because
takes place in the 90s,
Little teaser at the
but
end.
I'm guessing we'll get a teaser at the end of Captain Marvel of her probably getting like the page,
Yeah.
and then in May
Yeah.
she'll come in
I'm
because she's
interested to
stronger than
see-
all of the other Avengers. I think
Which is going to be really,
Really?
interesting to
Yeah.
see. Yeah, she's like mega powered.
she's
so
like
I'm
she got her
interested to
powers
see.
from an alien, like the Kree race or something.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember there was an arc in the Avengers cartoon that we watched,
Which is really good.
Yeah.
I think it's Avengers Assemble
yes
is the
yeah.
show. If
Is it
you're-
on Netflix still?
I don't think it is.
We should check. I would love to buy that. That was
Yeah,
a really good cartoon.
It was great. It was great. It's really cool. Like that was actually honestly where I learned most of the stuff
me
about
too.
the dynamics between
the Avengers
characters
character
and
and like
stuff.
who technically was a part of the Avengers
Right.
and stuff like that. Like I know I learned about Ant-Man from that.
Yep. Like they have Black Panther in it. That's where I actually first heard about him. So it's
Wasn't there a line about like, oh, there's Spider-Man, there's an Ant-Man too, or something?
Yeah,
like, in
yeah,
this movie?
he's
He's
like-
wait, there's an Ant-Man as well.
Yeah. Who said
Who
that?
said
I think
that?
it was
It might have been Peter.
it might it might have been-
Star-Lord.
Yeah.
He's like, wait, there's a Spider-Man and an Ant-Man.
Yeah, or what was it when Spider-Man's going up to Doctor Strange and he's like, "Hey, Peter Parker, how's it going?" He's like, "Doctor Strange," and he's like,
oh, we're using our superhero
we're using our
names."
fake names, like Spider-Man."
Yeah.
It's funny.
That was great.
So good.
So many good
The
moments.
Flash or like Footloose.
Yeah.
When he's
It was
like
never a good
he's like,
movie.
or like Kevin Bacon, Footloose. He's like, yeah, Footloose, and he's like, yeah, he's like,
This is still the greatest
Footloose,
movie
the
ever. He's
greatest
like,
movie
it
ever.
never was.
Yeah.
It never
This is still the
was.
greatest movie ever. It never was the greatest movie ever.
His face was just like, are you kidding me?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, what was the Kevin Bacon reference again? Wasn't it about like Kevin
'cause,
Bacon
like,
be super strong?
Back in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I remember that because Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Mantis wants to learn about America's history, and like Star-Lord doesn't really know what to share, so he's like, there was this great hero, savior among men, like Kevin Bacon, and he danced.
right.
And so like when they said like we need Earth's greatest, so like I think when
yeah,
Iron Man
Earth's
greatest
Greatest
dance
Hero-
party
yeah,
or
yeah,
something.
Iron Man said like the Avengers are like Earth's or someone was like Earth's greatest heroes, and then she was like Kevin Bacon, and then it's Peter Parker. It was such a perfect like bounce
Yeah.
back and forth, because then Iron Man was like Earth's greatest heroes, Mantis was like Kevin Bacon, and then Peter Parker was like Footloose, and then Star-Lord being like, is this still the greatest movie ever? And it's
He's
Peter Parker being like,
"It
it's
never
never the
was
greatest movie ever.
Yeah, that would be my last thing, and this is on behalf of my wife and her insights. One of her favorite parts in the movie is how intricately they paired the parties.
Yeah.
in
That was so well
sections.
done.
Yes.
And just like,
Because I remember when Thor, Rocket, and Groot paired off, I was like, oh, that's interesting, but it turned out like it was
it
super
was
good.
powerful.
Like Rocket and
Yeah.
Thor had a really good like character.
Freaking
Like
Groot with his video game.
Come on, Rabbit.
Rabbit, Rabbit, you need to get full power.
Yeah, or and I think her scene that she pointed out was when Tony Stark and Doctor Strange are like face to face, like in each other's face. I'm like, I will not give up the stone before I will kill you before I give up the stone. And then Tony being like, fine, whatever. And her point was like, they have both been established as immovable objects, and now they're having
Yeah.
to work together of like, I'm doing what I'm doing. Well, I'm doing what I'm doing. Well, fine. And like, that's just
Yeah.
who they are. And then you have Peter who's like, okay, I just kind of do what people tell me. And like,
Well, yeah, and then just how he like super casually was like, "Congrats, you're Avenger," and then just that perfect pan shot of like,
Frick.
You know, like
I'm an
just
Avenger.
he like had a slow growing smile on his face
Yeah.
and like looked all proud and stuff.
Yeah, then you've got like Cap and Vision and Scarlet Witch and Black Panther and who's the other party that was
Bucky.
Bucky
was
Bucky
there
was in
with
there.
them.
So like Star-Lord, well, like the
Black
rest
Widow
of the
was there.
rest of the Guardians join Tony and Doctor Strange and
So
Spider-Man.
it was just so good. It
Yeah.
was so good.
It was.
End of the spoilers. We'll cut it off. This is a doozy, but
It's a
there's
long one.
lot to talk
Yeah.
about and a lot to get hyped
Well,
on.
thanks for listening. You probably only listened to like 20 minutes of the,
Because you
on the
haven't seen either of
podcast.
those movies yet. And you're going to see them right now, correct? Yes.
Are you going?
Okay, good. Have you gone yet? I don't hear that car starting. Get going. I think you just crashed. Don't bust my lights.
Gotta see Avengers.
Anyway, you can check our podcast out on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and the YouTubes. Check out our Redbubble for some stuff. And that's it. We'll be back next week.
Thanks for tuning in. Now we're
Avengers!
Disassemble! Sorry.
Voices in my heart tell me to throw it all away, to toss it in the wind and forget yesterday. But the crowd comes singing back with that same old song. You've got bills you've gotta pay. What about job security?